the party delegates during the NDC. Kega and his cronies were axed despite insisting that the current Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni and retired President Uhuru Kenyatta do not have authority to call for the NDC. In what appears to be a growing conflict within Jubilee, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was appointed to continue serving as the party chairman, asked the rebel members to voluntarily leave the party.
Munasema ya kwamba imekufa chama chetu, hali nani yako na haja na maiti jameni? Kama imekufa, why are you interested? Si ni maiti jameni? Ukiona wakiitafuta ni kwa sababu wanajua Jubilee sio nini? Sio nini? We are very much alive na wataiona.
This as Kega and team dismissed the resolutions of the meeting, maintaining that Sabina Chege is the Jubilee acting party leader. Instead, Kega says Jubilee members will ensure that Kenyatta is punished for calling an NDC against the party law.
It is unfortunate that the former president has chosen to be on the wrong side of history by defying a legitimate decision of the party organ, and more so, he ceased being the party leader of Jubilee Party on the 14th of March 2023, as per Section 6 of the Presidential Retirement Benefit Act. He has no powers to call or chair any party meeting. Such impunity is unacceptable and illegal, and it taints the reputation of the office of the retired president.
Following the meeting, Jubilee Kamau has been elected as the National Director of Elections, Mason Leshomo as the Women Representative, Agnes Thumbi representing the Youth, and Nderitu Mureithi as the leader of the party's Activities Council. Others who are elected to the council are Beatrice Gambo, Mao Kamaure, David Manje, Kados Muiruri, Saitoti Torome, Yasin Noor and Pauline Njoroge. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji's journey to succeed Philip Kameru as the country's top spy now faces a double hurdle in a petition to the Public Service Commission by a group of civil society organizations and a case filed at Nakuru High Court. The civil society organizations under the umbrella body National Integrity Alliance petitioned the PSC calling for the sacking of Haji on the grounds of gross misconduct, incompetence and non-compliance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution. The groups claim that through Haji's incompetence, about 7 graft-released cases involving senior government officials were dropped, costing the taxpayers an estimated 11 billion shillings at a time when the country is facing serious financial challenges. And the National Treasury has reinstated the Insurance Regulatory Authority CEO Geoffrey Kiptum after he was sent on compulsory leave by the authority's board last week for alleged irregularities in procurement as well as accrued leave days. National Treasury PS Chris Kipto in a memo says that Kiptum will remain in office pending necessary consultations. The board's resolution to suspend the CEO last week coincided with changes in its membership, with the CS Treasury revoking the appointment of 4 independent directors and replacing them with Yasin Haji Hussein, Ambrose Mabonga Ngari, Professor Joel Chemiron and Immaculate Shemala. Napasi Ezekiel will now have access to all his bank accounts that had been frozen for 15 days. The court was told that the banks complied with investigations into the accounts. It was also revealed that none of the accounts are in Ezekiel's name. Instead, all accounts were either for the church or the school. And the Kenya National Union of Teachers Migori branch have threatened to mobilize their members for mass action if the 3% housing levy deduction is implemented. NUT Treasury Felix Olo says teachers' salaries still haven't been increased, and thus this levy would only be a burden to them.
Teachers have not been added even a single cent for a period of years now. Why tax? It is better they give us an increment in the salary, then we also accept that it is been deducted. But never shall we. We'll defend this one to the last drop of our blood. We'll mobilize the teachers. And even the strike, this is being communicated from down right from class to the national. But teachers will be out to defend this one.
The latest development comes even as civil society groups under the umbrella body Okoa Uchumi rejected the proposed 3% housing levy in the Finance Bill 2023. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry. Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday. All right. What do these Nairobi streets look like today as we're kicking off into the second day of this week? A little bit of traffic here and there starting to build up on the Thika Superhighway. It's not too bad, at least not for now. We will see movement on Jogger Road this morning, as we are already seeing right about now, getting towards the City Stadium roundabout. It's coming in hot and heavy on North Airport Road, heading through towards the Eastern Bypass, and also touching a little bit on Outer Ring. All right. What else are we looking at? Westlands movement is not too bad. Activity is going to pick up later, and we'll see some movement coming off Ngong Road, touching on Gitanga, and then from Naivasha as well, getting into Lavington. But for now, still slim pickings. Let's see what Tuesday has in store. How are you this morning? Are you stuck anywhere? Let us know, and let's see how we can keep things moving this Tuesday. How do you do it? Talk to us on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is
8 minutes after 6 on this Tuesday, the 23rd of May 2023. Good morning to you, and how are you doing? Everything could actually be a song. How are you? CT, good morning.
What do you do?
How are you?
Cold.
You're cold or good?
Cold.
Oh, you're cold.
I'm well, very well, but it's cold.
Why? What happened?
I don't know, this weather. It has really spoken about climate change.
Doing a number on you, Abi. Bele, as we say in Yoruba.
Yes.
Bele.
Bele is what? Cold.
Bele, bele, bele is sorry. KP.
KP.
Is Bele is sorry in Yoruba.
The K is silent.
Not really, because you say Bele, you don't say Pele, you say Pe.
Boom, 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 bam, 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 bam. Right.
I teach you, don't worry.
Got it.
Yeah, you see. You've got it. Umegacha.
What do you say got it in Yoruba?
I don't know.
Okay, and in
so if you want to say Olong, it's like that's it.
That's it.
Olong.
That's it. And in the Nigerian language you speak?
Of where I am from. Kai. Now, how do you say that one now? Bam. That's like it is. In fact, bam is in Yoruba. Bam is Yoruba. GBAM. Bam.
GBM. Bam.
That is it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Gotcha.
So
Bam.
Bam.
You're on it. You're on point.
Bam. Yes, okay.
You're bam.
Right.
You're good otherwise?
Yes, I am very well, thank you. And I thank the good Lord for the good health.
Wonderful. That is how I now know that I have been in this country for too long. I've just said you're good otherwise.
No. You're speaking Kenyanese.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Ndo and CT holding down for you today, with you today, where we say have a cup of as is tea, and waking up in the cold, have a cuppa. It's the best time to do it. The Kiptagich Tea Estates on Kurusoy South District bring you a blend of fantastic tea, and it's made in Kenya. It's manufactured in Kenya, and it's got some wonderful varieties of tangawizi, lemon, purple, ginger. And it just goes across board, and it's manufactured here, world premium blend, and you can have a cuppa even as we celebrated International Tea Day, and getting into the week where you wake up with these vibrant flavors, made in Kenya, manufactured for the world, available in the country. Wake up to a cup of that. I have the golden tea here, and had some of the lemon and the ginger yesterday, and it was still great. Continues to be. Kiptagich offers you sis tea. Waking up to that this morning, and thank you for joining us wherever it is you are. Our live streams up on YouTube and Facebook. Asante Sana for joining us. All right, so you ask, what are we going to be talking about today? It looks like it's going to be a packed morning. Not looks like, it is actually a packed morning. From 7 o'clock, our conversation will be around governance and joining government, and you ask, so who will be in that conversation with us? Presidential war. So what do you call somebody who was a presidential hopeful who competed in the election? Former what?
He isn't
presidential aspirant.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Presidential aspirant Wahiga Mwaure will be with us at 7 o'clock, and we'll be talking about the mind shift that must have taken place when he moved from aspirant to obviously not president, and now has taken up a position in the government with the president. Having that conversation, and then what it really does mean to deliver good governance. We'll be talking about that with him at 7. And at 8 o'clock this morning, we'll have a chat with Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi. He is the chairman of Vision 2030 Delivery Board. Vision 2030, a few years to go on that. Where are we? And what is the outlook for Kenya? That conversation will be had at 8 and at 9 o'clock. How youth can thrive in entrepreneurship amidst tough economic times. What can you do? Where can you get that out? And to help us in that conversation, Jared Oundo, who is the national coordinator of the United SMEs Association of Kenya, will join us at 9 o'clock. It's a packed morning, and we're getting on the ride this morning. Thank you for joining us. Even as we get into that, we're going to take a quick break and look at what's happening in the skies, and we come back and take a look at who's online, and we say hello to you. And then we take a look into the headlines. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Ndu and CT with you this morning. You ask, where is Eric? Off for a couple of days. He'll be back. Brand spanking new. Keep it here. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
16 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 26 in a mostly clear Nakuru at 15. And at 16, cloudy conditions in Nyeri, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 24 in a mostly clear Eldoret at 12. At 25, mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in Malindi, where it's partly cloudy at 26. At 20, clear conditions in Kisumu, highs of 30, and it's 16 and clear in Kakamega, highs of 27. Back down to lows of 16. Mostly cloudy in Kampala at 20, highs of 27. And looking into a mostly clear Dar es Salaam, it's 24, highs of 30, down to lows of 23. It's winter in Johannesburg, it's 7 degrees, highs of 17. And looking into a mostly cloudy Lagos at 26, it'll go to highs of 31. 24 and mostly clear in Kinshasa, highs of 32 and lows of 24. Tuesday afternoon is sunny in Beijing, highs of 30. And at 13, it's cloudy in Paris, highs of 20 and lows of 8. London is cloudy at 10 with highs of 18 into Tuesday. And Monday night is clear at 14 in New York. Coming into Tuesday, we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 12.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Okay.
94.4.
A minute after 6:15. Good morning to you guys, and we see you online. Thank you for joining us. Our live streams indeed are up on YouTube and Facebook. Wherever you're joining us from, here in Kenya or around the world, Asante Sana. Collins, Kiptai, Kipsat, Chamge. So how do you answer that? Chamge, when somebody says Chamge?
I think you say Chamge, missing.
Missing. Ednah, good morning. You are awake this morning, you beautiful woman. Missing. Does that mean I'm missing you?
I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, it's something. Colin says, well, Kim Tai, so tell us. Good morning to you, Ndu. Good morning, CT. Have a wonderful one. Asante Sana. Mombasa is tuned in. Frederick Odhiambo says, good morning, Spice. Good morning, this terrific Tuesday, Ndu and CT. Seems Eric went to recharge the batteries. Indeed, he went to plug something into something, that's for sure. Looking forward to great conversations. Yes. Amos Freeman, good morning and welcome to the morning conversation. Thank you for joining us. Serving banter as it should be. Hot. Lady Waivera, good morning. Tosh says good morning. You have some contributions here to make. All right. You said after listening to Polycarp Hinga that the housing scheme seems to make some kind of sense. The 3% contribution will be converted to part of the deposit if you opt to take a house. So it's making sense to you. Okay, well, let's see how that goes. Sometimes. Okay, so a lot of folks talking to us this morning. Here we go. Jose Dede says, good morning. Morning, CT, specifically to you. Elijah says, good morning. He's tuning from Muranga, specifically Kandara. Mbuchikiam Togo is tuned in this morning. And I know there are a lot of you tuned in this morning. Alhaji tuned in from Mombasa and Kisauni specifically. Frederick Kater says, good morning. Good job, guys. Thanks for joining us every morning. Jacqueline Awando, good morning to you, sister. And Jane says, good morning. Nyongesa tuned in from Cabras. Aradi says, good morning, my people. Good morning, our person. Good morning also, Ednah from Eldoret. Good morning to you. Waivera's here. David Mogaka's tuned in. Chris is tuned in as well. Manasseh says, good morning from Kihara, Ndu, CT, Spice. Everybody, we see you. Good morning to you. And Karibuni Sana. Okay, we're going to kick off with today's proverb, still from Djibouti, with the Djiboutians and the Djiboutians. Abi?
Right. The capital city of Djibouti is Djibouti City. 70% of that population is Somali, 30% is Afar. So that counts for what we call the national languages, which are Somali and Afar. Okay? Right. Amazing. You know, these countries are truly, truly, truly amazing. This country is bordered by Somalia in the south, Ethiopia in the southwest, Eritrea in the north. Now, wait for the interesting bit. The Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden to the east. That passageway then moves you and gets into the Indian Ocean. That's why seafaring vessels, a horde of seafaring vessels, the traffic of seafaring vessels on this route are profound.
Very interesting, actually.
Transshipment, refueling, right there.
Some of the things that we actually don't take into consideration. Very interesting.
Now, one of the ththings that most people do not know, and which I must tell them, you've heard of this organization we have on this called IGAD. You've heard of IGAD?
IGAD, yes.
You've heard of IGAD?
The Intergovernmental...
Yes. Go on.
On development.
Thingamajig on development.
Development, yes.
Right. Now, do you know where it is headquartered?
In Djibouti.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
International Authority on Development, blah, 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 blah. So, it is maybe the smallest country within. Seychelles is smaller, but if you're talking about within the continent, the body of the continent, mainland, it's the smallest, but it is not insignificant. Okay. Now the proverb for the day. If, that's how the proverb begins.
If? Okay.
Actually, in dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps, even if counting under one's breath.
In dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps. His being the enemy.
Enemy up and his.
Even if what now?
Even if under one's breath.
Oh, you still have to. You still have to follow his steps.
Yes, you may not see.
You don't like it.
Yes, you may not see, but you're actually counting 2 here, 3 here. Then after a while, a pattern emerges and say, okay. So when it takes 2, I know there's a 3 coming. When it takes 3, I know we're going back to 1.
That's interesting because in dance, there's a leader and there's a follower. So one is assuming that in this particular dance, the enemy is the leader. Or that even if this person has taken up a position of lead. I've just had a eureka moment.
Yes, eureka it for me, please.
Even if the person who leads is your enemy, you have to subdue to authority and follow the dance.
Yes. Subduing, I would say subduction. Subduing.
You can try that one. It's Tuesday. I mean.
Yes, it means even if you're not shouting loudly, but you're clearly counting their steps. You're observing their movements. You're taking note of their movements. Yes. Their movements are not lost on you. That is essentially what you're saying.
I like these Djiboutians.
These Djiboutians are like the Eritreans. Really, genuinely interesting proverbs.
Okay. So a lot is happening. There was a lot of red around the city yesterday. So let's take a look at what's going on in the headlines that we see this morning. On the front page of the Standard, I'm here to stay, Uhuru to Ruto and party rebels. Don't disturb me. Former president says he had embraced retirement. He was ready to go until some forces wanted to take over his party. NDC kicked out rebels, installed new faces to lead the outfit. We saw a very interesting looking Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday at the NDC that took place at the Gong Race Course. That was interesting to see. Looking a little bit into that story later. Increased taxes, we strike. You do this, we do that. Civil society warns. Hey. Okay, now there's a puzzle, another jigsaw puzzle of a junior city hall worker with 537 million shillings in assets. It'll be interesting to know how much this junior city hall worker earns on a monthly and how it has been possible. They say a little, fills up the pot. So
that's what they say, yeah?
That's what they say. Okay. So let's see how this actually came to be. We'll look into that story. The court has halted the Shakahola inquiry. That's on page 6 of the Standard this morning. Want to look into that story because those numbers have significantly increased since the last time we spoke about it, and something to not forget. All right, on the front page of The Nation, again, this story of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm no pushover. Uhuru tells Ruto, don't think you're going to play with me. Essentially, is the message that we heard yesterday. Battle for Jubilee's soul. The former president moves to stamp his authority amid onslaught by group allied to President William Ruto. You bring it, I'll bring it, is basically what he was saying. Party cleanup, faction led by nominated MP Sabina Chege and Yala lawmaker Kanini Kega thrown out in changes. So you were coming to bring a second head for leadership. Cut it off. Chuck it out. Rebels fight back. Ousted politicians claim that Uhuru City meeting was illegitimate and was just another political rally. Well, okay, it was an interesting day. Let's look and see what other stories are making the headlines on The Nation. Education, leadership crises hit varsities as terms of VCs and councils lapse. Sugar scam. Now, folks have been charged in court. Njiraini, 7 others face theft charge in toxic sugar case. Dead cat, still quite alive.
I was thinking about this really. To be honest, what really happened here? Because these 7 people who are now in the docks, I really wonder what role they played, and I really wonder what's really happening. Because if you work in the position these people work in, you would know that if something goes wrong, it'll be your head in the chopping block.
Indeed. So why would you deliberately do something like that you are guaranteed will get you in trouble?
And it's not that the sugar arrived yesterday or the day before they were arraigned in court. This saga has been on since 2018, man. Okay? So what has been happening all this time? And in all honesty, where really is that sugar?
Where is the sugar? Okay, so let me give you this. Let's just delve into that story, shall we? Okay, Njiraini and 7 others face theft charge in toxic sugar case. Suspects released on 400,000 shilling. Remember that bail bond conversation we had last week? They've been released on 400,000 shillings bail each after denying charges of conspiracy to commit a crime, abuse of office, theft, interfering with goods under customs control, and possession of restricted goods. That's a lot. The only thing left not to throw at these fellas is the kitchen sink. Okay.
Well, that's called a broad-based
My goodness.
case, meaning if we miss this, we'll get them.
If we throw all these things, something is going to stick.
We must at least get one ought to stick.
Okay, so let me tell you that story. The Kenya Bureau of Standards Managing Director Bernard Njino Njiraini, the Kenya Revenue Authority Deputy Commissioner Joseph Kiago Kakuro, and 6 others were yesterday arraigned on charges of stealing 20,000 bags of condemned brown sugar worth over 20 million shillings. The condemned sugar was to be used as raw material for distillation of industrial ethanol. The 8 suspects who appeared before Milimani Chief Magistrate Lucas Oyinya were released on 400,000 shillings bail each after denying 6 charges of conspiracy to commit a crime, abuse of office, theft, interfering with goods under customs control, and possession of restricted goods. Okay. Mr. Njiraini and Mr. Kagoro were accused alongside 2 suspended KRA officials, Derek Njeru Kago and Peter Njoroge Mwangi, Mombasa Port Shipping agent Chris Waithaka Amasharia, businessman Mohammed Hassan Ali, Abdi Hirsi Yusuf alias Blackie, and Polian Jerry Kamau. Their lawyers, of course, did the business and they were out on bail, each with a personal bond of 500,000 shillings, and they complied. There was also a request made to the court on behalf of Mr. Njeri to uphold the personal bail granted to him by the High Court, as he's willing to comply with the conditions imposed by the court when he was released on bail. I'm sorry, but even as we go into the details of this story, I am also led to think along the lines that a number of things are happening here, and it seems that we're still not getting to the very heart of the story. The fella who was arrested at the airport over this story when he was trying to come back in.
He actually came back from Dubai.
Came back from Dubai.
Yes.
What role does he play in all of this? These guys are being also charged with possession of this sugar. Where is the sugar? What exactly is happening here? And unfortunately, it seems to me like we're not going to hear what really happened. This case is going to fizzle away into the air like the morning mist at noon, and we're not going to hear anything about it in a short while. But somebody's getting the short end of the stick for something they did or did not do. All right. So many people here, 8 yesterday charged in court. All of them pled, not guilty. And the magistrate noted that the suspects had been released on police cash bail and personal anticipatory bail by the High Court, and that the DPP had no objection to the release on bail. Each of them were then released yesterday, and the case will come up for pre-trial hearings on the 6th of June. This is happening really quickly. It's happening very fast.
It's moving fast. That is fine. If we're talking just movements, but all these people are not just citizens of this country. They are adults, presumably of sound mind, and they have families. You've been tarred with a really, really black brush here.
Aye.
And even when the court finds you innocent, for many people you'll still be guilty.
Yeah.
Okay. The question of where the sugar is and where this sugar was since 2018, whether this sugar actually was turned into ethanol, what it is that of all these accusations that we read about and whether it is actually true. There's a lot that still remains unclear on this particular matter.
And I'm sorry to burst whatever bubble of hope that you may have, CT, in terms of any explainer or deep dive that will be done about this. I don't think nobody is going to get the full details, full exploratory evidence of what happened.
No, this
you will
whole
never know
group
the
of people who are here, and given what they do and what we've been told, because believe me, something that touchy that has been in the glare of the public has been spoken of. Agencies that deal with corruption and justice and the law and security have come into it. They wouldn't touch this unless they were given guarantees that touching it would not land them in any kind of trouble. And if that is not the case, then we must understand and seek to understand why it is them who are being picked on. Because if it is this country, sometimes they're the people who put their foot down and say, we're not going to do this, and you're the one who's going to be the fault person. So the absence of clarity on this particular matter simply makes it an ongoing story, and we'll continue going on with it until the day they tell us that the case has been withdrawn for lack of evidence.
Yeah. On that note, maybe it's a good time to take a break and see what's happening on these Nairobi streets as you are waking up this morning, and also in other parts of the country. It's 29 minutes to 7 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation takes a quick break as we look at traffic and come back and continue taking a look at the headlines.
Nani yako na haja na maiti jameni? Kama imekufa, why are you interested? Si ni maiti jameni. Ukiona wakiitafuta ni kwa sababu wanajua Jubilee sio nini? Sio nini? We are very much alive. Na wataiona.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen. So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done. I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called first ladies until you change the name.
All right, at 27 minutes to 7 o'clock, we're looking at traffic in certain parts of the city starting to build up quite significantly on the Thika Superhighway coming into the CBD. It's your usual Tuesday morning musings, and we'll see some of that getting towards the Pangani underpass. We're seeing a little bit of it building up on Kiambu Road. It's likely to get just as crazy as it was yesterday. Let's look at Rongai. Let's look at Magadi Road, where there was drama yesterday because of that accident. You're not going to find the same thing today. It's moving well as you then approach the Bomas of Kenya and then out towards Langata Road. So folks are on their way into the city. Kaende is what you say, right? Okay, coming off of Westlands for now, looks pretty good. You'll probably see a bit of a hold up on James Gishoro later on, just over that drift as traffic comes to a head to traffic hour. On Mombasa Road, you're fine getting towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabouts. On Uhuru Highway, you will find some traffic closer to 7 o'clock. Just be prepared for that. Are you heading out towards Outer Ring? There's a little bit as you then touch on the Eastern Bypass and then also touching on North Airport Road. All right, so that's what it looks about right now. Let's take a look around about 7 and see how that has changed. Talk to us about what you see. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
And we continue looking at what's happening in the news today as reported by the papers. City, shine on us.
You know, this mental health issue is not going to come to an end soon. And if anything, it's simply going to have that upward trajectory of increasing. We're told of a story, this is on page 9 of the Star, how a woman in Eldoret has stabbed her 2-year-old son to death following a domestic quarrel.
With whom?
She also attempted to commit suicide by stabbing herself, but was rescued by neighbors. Gosh. Let me just read. She had returned from her rural home early yesterday and quarreled with her husband before she took the knife and attacked the children. But the 2-year-old son is the one who died.
I'm sorry. She had a squabble with who?
Her husband.
Her husband in the house.
In the house, yes. But the other child didn't die but was injured and was taken to the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital.
And where is she?
She is there, and she says she was in hospital. She's asked for forgiveness. She had problems at home, but she did not intend to kill her children. She said she was having problems, but no one wanted to listen to her. I've done this out of extreme anger and plead for forgiveness. So you stab your child because you're extremely angry.
Honestly.
Wow. And she said that because she was angry, she decided to die with her children instead of suffering with no help.
But unfortunately, I mean, whichever one you want to use, fortunately or unfortunately, she didn't die and the child did. You know?
You know, like everything else that we talk about in this country, the severity of the situation is climbing. It's not declining. And yet, we talk about it as though talking about it will of necessity provide the much needed solution. And the truth is it won't. Okay? You know, the Senate, there's a headline on page 8. Senate supports 3% housing levy, pledges to enact law for funds safety. This is the Senate Committee on Road Transport and Housing. They have said this 3% thing is okay. They're willing to pass it into law, but only after a few amendments that ensure that the workers' funds are safe. This 3% thing is going to pass, and it's going to be law.
Yes, it is.
So, instead of debating about it,
it's going to pass.
It is going to pass. We'll debate about it, we'll talk about it, we'll permeate about it, but it's going to pass.
On that mental health thing, I mean, we've had many conversations about what is really going on with the mental health situation in the country. And, you know, check on your people, because not everybody's okay. Everybody's walking through a moment, and you could think it's just a bad day sometimes, but it's actually a depressed state of things. And let's look at one that is being exemplified in the country on a grander scale, and that's the Shakahola incidents, right? And we continue to ask ourselves, what kind of persuasion led to people starving themselves in the hope that they would be going to heaven soon after they did that? And so what is happening with that story now is, as reported on page 6 of the Standard today, the court has halted team's inquiry into Shakahola deaths. The High Court has suspended sittings of the Commission of Inquiry. So there was a commission, right? Remember that? There was a Commission of Inquiry that was set up by and was formed by the President, to probe the Shakahola deaths. The decision by Justice Lawrence Mugambi means the Judicial Commission will not sit until a ruling is made. What does all of this mean? The judges issued the order after Azimio lawyers Paul Mwangi and Wangoi Joroge informed him that it would be in vain to have the sittings continue before a ruling is made. So, go back. What happened? Mwangi said taxpayers' money will already have been spent before the court determines whether the commission should proceed or not. This comes as the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights backed Azimio in opposing the formation of the commission. The lawyer Abdulkadir Osman argued that the Shakahola probe would be usurping its powers to probe human rights violations and torture. The lawyer asserted that the KNHCR has started probing the saga. So they're saying, first of all, this commission should not sit, because what mandate do they have to sit? So it's been taken to court. So court says, okay, actually, you know what? let's just hold this. Let's make a ruling on this case that has come before us. Once we do that, then we can decide whether this commission will actually continue sitting or not. So in terms of what was the job of the commission? The job of the commission was to find out what on holy earth was happening in Shakahola, who was responsible for it, how long has this been going on, what led to the deaths of how many people now have been exhumed? I'll find out that number in just a minute. But so that was the job of the commission. The commission, as having been formed by the president, was to go ahead and do this. As Emil and others came and said, you know what, actually they don't have the mandate, you don't have the powers to do that. The commission had already started sitting. Court has now said, hold up, now let's make a ruling, then we will decide whether the commission can continue or not. So until that happens, the sittings have been suspended. All right, still a crime scene, and the exhumations continue closer and closer to 300 in terms of the bodies that have been found. It's at the same time, the Senate is seeking more officers for rescue at Shakahola. They've recommended additional personnel to the search and rescue mission for survivors of the fasting to death cult at Shakahola Forest in Kilifi County. The committee, led by Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana, at the weekend visited the scene where 237 bodies of people believed to have starved to death to meet their creator were exhumed and came face to face with the tragedy. Mungatana said the committee would welcome views from Kenyans on ways of regulating religion, adding that his committee had been meeting religious leaders and other stakeholders to get their views. He's part of this commission now for who the court has said, hold up, just wait. He said they've been able to visit the place known as Galilee, where Mr. Paul Mackenzie had his house, and they've been able to see where he would institute punishment and judgment. Allah. So Mungatana said that they were shown a mass grave that had 67 people at a place called Bethlehem. He's naming these places after he's giving them biblical names. So there's Galilee, where people will be punished. There's Bethlehem, where people were buried.
Do they have Sodom and Gomorrah also?
Perhaps the whole place should have been called Sodom and Gomorrah. He said that they were informed that there were forces behind the cultic teachings and vowed to get to the bottom of the matter. He noted that there were complaints from locals that they reported the matter to the security agencies, but little action was taken. That's already been founded. So Migori Senator said that 130 rescues and search personnel were inadequate. So this is the thing. Right now, there's 130 search and rescue personnel covering this 800-acre expanse of land. So far, 237 bodies have been found, so saying close to 250. The exhumation continues. It gets into day, I'm not sure what number we are at today, but the likelihood of more bodies being found over this expanse of land then gets huge and huge, and they're saying it's not enough, we need more personnel on the ground.
They do. Remember, there was a gentleman called Pastor Ezekiel.
He's still alive.
Oh, he's very much alive, and he had his own woes. His bank accounts had been frozen, etc., etc., etc. Well, the courts have unfrozen his bank accounts, but the DCI have an issue with his M-Pesa lines, and they're saying they got a court order to seize those lines, and Safaricom has not complied. So the legal manager at Safaricom has been summoned by the courts and been told, come here quickly and explain to us why Safaricom has not. Now, remember, he had two lawyers who were working with him. They've said, I don't know why these guys are kicking a fuss. The issue we're dealing with here is those phones they're talking about don't belong to Pastor Ezekiel. They belong to his church. Yeah.
Also, the M-Pesa phone is not his. It's not in his name.
They're not his. They're church, not his. Yet the order was for his phone, his M-Pesa lines. So.
Okay, I know he had said, the money in the church actually helps to fund school feeding program in the area, and thus. So if you don't allow him access to some of these accounts, there are people who are actually suffering as a result, So this has actually really nothing to do with me. Please just release the money. But the court seems to have agreed, no?
Let me tell you.
Tell me.
I have seen such a thing happen before.
Which thing exactly?
This sort of thing that we're talking about, where accounts have been frozen because of blah, blah, blah. There's an NGO I worked with, and the NGO Coordination Board decided to freeze our accounts.
What did you people do?
They said they were accused of money laundering.
Okay.
Yes. Now, they did not get a court order. I don't know how the banks agreed to have the account frozen, but they were frozen. So we sought a judicial review. And the judge told us, yep, you have a point. These guys didn't have the wherewithal to actually freeze your account. In fact, they were wrong in freezing your account.
So it's not a matter of did you actually launder money or not, but the process by which they went about doing this is what was faulty. And based on that,
yes,
then you guys actually...
We said, the judicial review includes what we're accused of. So the court looks into it and see if it meets the mast. And the court said it doesn't actually quite meet the master.
Okay.
There's no such thing involved.
Okay.
And we were set free. Now, why I mentioned the story, this very account is what served for us to procure ARVs, to procure commodities, and to run the business of providing care and treatment for people who are HIV positive, and to ensure that the research projects attached to it also continued.
Right.
Now, we would not have sought judicial review as the shortest way to get this thing sorted out, because the court case would have taken forever. Now, what am I saying? I am saying that sometimes when you hear that a court case or a court injunction has been ordered, it is important that court processes are followed. But it's also important to follow what happens after the court order, so that you can understand whether this was just someone playing what is often referred to wrongly as monkey business, okay, or it was a genuine case. Because in some cases it could be genuine. Something wrong is taking place and you want to put a halt to it before it gets worse. In other cases, somebody has just decided to take a pot shot at you for whatever reasons they have. And that is because they know they have the muscle to do so. That is the term that's what they'll follow.
Right.
Now, something happened in Kericho yesterday.
Oh no, good thing or bad thing?
Terrible thing.
Oh no.
The youth set ablaze tea plucking machines in Kericho.
Okay, call me crazy, but I can see why they would. I'm sorry, not like that, but you must understand where I'm coming from. That
I don't
you say in my language.
You haven't told me.
Na condition they make crayfish bend. Sure you get. Okay, so now before I start philosophizing, why did they burn the tea picking machines?
Well, this is a story on the Business Daily. The youths, I'm going to read this. Youths take control of tea plucking machines owned by Ekatera Tea Company, which they later torched on the outskirts of Kericho town yesterday. Several of the machines were set ablaze as residents faulted their use by multinationals in the region. The complaint here seems to be that these machines are taking over their jobs.
Yeah.
So you set them ablaze. I hear you going, yeah. So
they're taking their jobs, so you set them ablaze so that you can be hired to come and do the work on the farm.
You have now committed a crime, and now instead of just getting your jobs, you're going to face jail term. So what have you actually solved?
Nada.
And one can see incitement here. I am seeing it because these machines didn't come the day before yesterday.
Look, CT, this clamor for mechanization of the tea farms in Kenya started easily 15 years ago.
It did.
Because the tea companies, the tea estates saw that, you know what, we can actually do this work a lot faster. We can do it with and apply a lot more efficiency to this process. So when the big boys in the tea farms went into mechanization or wanted to even start with mechanization, there was an uproar about, okay, so what is going to happen? A lot of us in the farms, Kericho, Eldoret, around this area, a lot of us had funded our lives on tea. A lot of us tea pickers had sent our children to school as a result of being tea pickers. And so in around 2010, 2011, when this mechanization story was hot, there was this war back and forth. Some of the tea farms went ahead and got into mechanization full throttle. And they said, you know what, look, it's either we sink or we swim in what the world is asking us to do in terms of production. It's either we do this thing and be able to now have huge results, better results as we would with the manual picking of tea. This war did not start with what happened in Kericho yesterday.
It
has been on forever.
Yes,
and the question was, even if farms mechanize, what is going to be done to make sure that these folks who've been tea pickers for generations can actually have some kind of livelihood?
You know, this is the whole point here, okay? And this is where now bad politics comes into play. What do you think you gain by touching those machines? Mechanization is a process that was going to come along whether you like it or not. It's like saying that we in the banking sector have reduced the number of employees because we've automated. We now use computers where you need 10 people in here, you have one computer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is the service more efficient? Yes.
Yes.
I come from a sugar growing area where sugar growing, from a time when it was lucrative and people did very well, to a time now when people simply leave the crop to do what it wills and they keep cows to graze on the land. Why? It stopped being profitable. It takes 18 months for you to harvest. It takes you another 2 years to get your money. It makes no sense at all, no matter how much you do the arithmetic. Now, go to politics would dictate. Remember recently I mentioned that there was this little fuss about Finlay's tea selling their shares to a Sri Lankan company.
Mm-hmm.
But what didn't come out clearly was that the county government, together with the smallholders, together with the citizens of Kericho, were brought in to also buy a stake. Now, good business thinking would point one in the direction of negotiating so that these people who work in the industry also become shareholders, even if they're smallholders. And it's something that can be done. After all, the land is within the purview of the county. They do have muscle. All they need to do is refuse to renew your lease. That's all they need to do. And you'll have your tree, you'll have your tea there, but you will not have the land on which to plant it. What I'm saying is, when there is an indication that there's incitement for violence to be meted out on the means of production that a certain industry has, as opposed to trying to find a way in which you can actually arrive at a middle ground where the tea company benefits and the people in whose area the tea company is nestled also benefit. You do not hear much of that conversation. What you hear is tough industrial talk. What you hear is tough threats. Now, if that is a way of negotiating, it's a very poor way of negotiating, because somebody will take your cue and then respond in kind, and then who will lose? Remember, these companies have been there not for decades. Some have been there for close to a century, if not beyond.
Yeah, generations.
So, yes.
Generations, that's what we're talking about.
So if they're making money, they made their money a long time ago.
Indeed, it's true. I'd be really interested to see how, because like I said, it's been decades of fighting in terms of what's going to happen with the tea pickers vis-a-vis the the machines, the tea picking machines. Let's look at the back page of The Nation today, where the story is that varsities face crises as they go without VCs and councils. Okay, more than 10 public universities are facing a leadership crisis due to lack of substantive chancellors and vice chancellors to oversee the operations, as some of the administrators have retired while others are soon to follow suit. See, they've retired. They will hire new people. Well, I don't understand where the lacuna is. But anyway, let's look at the story a little bit more. The public universities currently operating without substantive vice chancellors are Technical University of Kenya, Kabibi, Kabianga, Rongo, Tomboya, Karatina, Jaramogi University of Science and Technology, Tharaka Technical University of Mombasa, Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, Maseno, Taita Taveta, Kaimosi Friends University, and Chuka. For me, the question is, why don't they have... don't they go into a process when you know that a vice chancellor is going to retire? The process of hiring a new one then comes into place, or seconding a name for
this
one.
This isn't the first time that we are in this rodeo. This is something that happens. It's been happening for decades. So why it's an issue now is what we should ask. Why is it being made as an issue right now?
Others are Cooperative University of Kenya, Kirinyaga, Laikipia, Southeastern Kenya, Garissa, Murang'a University of Technology, Kisii, Multimedia, Over the Hill here, Masinde Muliro, University of Embu, Alupe University, University of Eldoret, Meru University of Science and Tech. For some like Masai Mara University, the VCs will step down from June and others by December. A number of universities also do not have chancellors. Pwani University, for example, been operating without a chancellor since 2018. Okay. I'm led to ask why. And why has that not been sorted out? You need somebody to fill the space you hire. don't you? You go through the process of seconding names, and then you go through the process of vetting and employing. And no, help me understand. I don't even understand why it's an issue.
I don't understand even why it's being presented as an issue.
Why is there a crisis? You don't have a chancellor, then see you hire one.
What happened to the processes of getting these things? I mean, do they point out to the fly in this ointment so that we understand what it is that is actually causing this problem, which they clearly want to highlight? This is a normal process. The university council, you have a fixed term, you're there for X number of years, then you leave. VC, everything is known. So from the day you get in, it is known when you will exit.
It's not a crisis, if you ask me.
No, it is not. And also, it's not as though everybody's employed or gotten in at the same time. It's never the case. What you will find is that even when there is a VC, they have deputies. And they were not all in that position at the same time. So when one VC exits, there'll be deputies who can hold fort as you're looking for someone else.
I don't get it, man. And the happy people at Pwani University decided that they don't need a VC since 2018. So then they carry along in this.
My friend, continuity in these schools is always there. Whether it is schools of higher learning, whether it is secondary schools, whether it's primary schools, there's always continuity. So long as you have a teacher or you have teachers in that school, there's continuity. Even if the head teacher and the deputy move, the school will run.
Don't get it, man.
Somebody will be appointed to take over their place. I don't understand why it is being made as though suddenly we have a crisis. And if we do, why do we have a crisis?
Don't get it, man. Okay. So, let's round up the hour really quickly and look at the position that former President Uhuru Kenyatta took yesterday at the Jubilee NDC, which some said was illegal, was legal, should not have been, whatever. What he said yesterday, in many words, I wanted to resign from politics to focus on other things. In my mind, I thought the NDC would be my time to down my tools. That was my previous thought before others decided to force things. I want to tell them to look for someone else to intimidate. Not Uhuru Kenyatta.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have heard him.
Tough talking yesterday. He said, I was ready to go home. But then you people now wanted to come look for somebody else to shake down, not me. Then this was the first time that we actually heard him speak about what happened at the Northlands Ranch. And he said, you people came and wanted to steal my land. You people came and burnt my goats and stole my goats. Okay. No problem. And I've been quiet. Now, let me tell you, I'm not the one that you're going to joke around with. So there was illegality or not properly constituted. This is the owner of the political party. Is he overstepping his bounds? 6 months after a president exits from the scene, he should actually leave all kind of politics behind.
That's nonsense.
He said, I don't need your money, man. That's what he said. So that you pay me, right? So that you pay me this luxurious package of pension and vehicles and etc., etc. Stay with it.
My dear,
that's what he said.
This nonsense that these politicians keep talking about, so and so, can they acquire just a little more circumspection when they present their views? When a president retires, where in our constitution is it indicated that they cannot be involved in politics? Where?
So there is what they call the President's Insurance. Is it bill now or is it act? And there's a time period that has been stipulated that upon exit of the president, 6 months he cannot be involved in party politics in order for this now insurance package, package to kick in.
He cannot be involved in politics as the president or as a person. Because if you bring in the person, then you are abrogating his rights. Fundamental rights that he has in the constitution, and it trumps anything that you may call the law. Constitution is supreme. His rights are entrenched. You cannot curb it. His right for association. Barking up the wrong tree. In fact, not just barking, trying to climb the wrong tree.
So he can do what he likes. Leave him alone.
He is no longer president as Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. He can associate with whoever he likes. He can join with political party he likes. That is within his purview.
Shasema, no problem. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
bora kutoka Better Healthcare International.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The leadership conflict in the Jubilee party has now taken a new turn after faction being led by Yala MP Kanini Kega sent parking from the party by the party delegates during the NDC. Kega and his cronies were axed despite insisting that the current Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni and retired President Uhuru Kenyatta do not have the authority to call for the NDC. In what appears to be a growing conflict within Jubilee, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was appointed to continue serving as the party chairman, asked the rebel members of parliament to voluntarily leave the party.
Munasema ya kwamba imekufa chama chetu, hali nani yako na haja na maiti jameni? Kama imekufa, why are you interested? Si ni maiti jameni? Ukiona wakitafuta ni kwa sababu wanajua Jubilee sio nini? Sio nini? We are very much alive na wataiona.
These as Kega and team dismissed the resolutions of the meeting, maintaining that Sabina Chege is the Jubilee acting party leader. Instead, Kega says Jubilee members will ensure that Kenyatta is punished for calling an NDC against the law.
It is unfortunate that the former president has chosen to be on the wrong side of history by defying a legitimate decision of the party organ, and more so, he ceased being the party leader of Jubilee Party on the 14th of March 2023, as per Section 6 of the Presidential Retirement Benefit Act. He has no powers to call or chair any party meeting. Such impunity is unacceptable and illegal, and it taints the reputation of the office of the retired president.
Following the meeting, Jubilee Kamau has been elected as the National Director of Elections, Mason Leshomo representing women, Agnes Thumbi representing the youth, Nderitu Mureithi as the leader of the party's Activities Council. Now, others who were elected to the council are Beatrice Gambo, Mao Kamaure, David Manje, Kados Mwiruri, Saitoti Torome, Yasin Noor and Pauline Njoroge. Still on matters politics, and President William Ruto is today expected to hold another parliamentary group meeting at State House, Nairobi. This is Ruto's sixth meeting with MPs since he assumed power. Speaking in Isiolo over the weekend, Ruto said that on the agenda will be planning development projects in various counties and ways to deal with unemployment in the country.
Nitaketi chini na wabunge on Tuesday. Mimi naketi chini na wabunge tukubaliane na wao vile tutapanga mambo ya ICT hubs in every ward in Kenya. Ndio tupange vijana wetu na digital jobs. Tumekubaliana na magavana, tumekubaliana agricultural and industrial parks in every county. Tumekubaliana markets in every constituency.
Ruto is expected to use today's meeting to plead with the MPs to pass the 2023 finance bill when it is presented to Parliament. The public had until May 20th to submit their views on the bill before it is taken to the floor of the House. Already opposition leaders are opposing the bill, despite Kenya Kwan's MPs giving every indication that they will pass the finance bill into law. Still in the August House, and the third National Annual Symposium on Public Participation is scheduled to be held in Naivasha, Kenya, beginning on the 26th of 2023 of May. Now, the symposium is organized by the Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training in collaboration with other services of Parliament, including the National Assembly, Senate and Parliamentary Joint Services. The event will be officially opened by the Speaker of the National Assembly and closed by his Senate counterpart, Amason Jeffa Kingi. Now, the primary objective of the symposium is to provide a platform for professionals working in the governance sector, such as parliamentary training institutes, legislative staff, academia, and non-state actors to engage in robust discussions and share knowledge and best practices. Now, detectives based in Nakuru County are looking for ex-Mungiki leader Maina Njenga in relation to the recovery of 2 firearms and over 90 rolls of bang. The items were found at a home linked to him. The detectives said the weapons were discovered following a raid conducted at Ngomongo village in Dundori ward. The officers managed to arrest 8 suspects aged between 37 and 54 and also found 3 rounds of 9mm blank ammunition hidden in one of the rooms. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, looking into traffic hour. It looks like we're starting early today. Traffic on Jogoo Road is taking us to the City Stadium roundabout. It's going to take us into the city and leave a quite trail of traffic in its wake. Some of that also coming out of Westlands, and we're looking at James Gishuru packing up quite tight very early this morning. And let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, where traffic is absolutely crazy. Coming in all the way from Thika Town, well into Kiambu County. We're looking at quite some traffic coming into the city. It's heavy, it's bumper to bumper, not moving in many parts. Coming in from that junction of Allsops all the way into the CBD, it is bumper to bumper. You want to use your service lanes this morning, that's probably a better option for you. Also looking at Kiambu Road, we're looking at in and outbound traffic, quite something as well. Let's look at Mombasa Road, where traffic has started to build up just around North Airport Road, and it is heavy right about now. If you're heading in the direction of the Eastern Bypass, you might want to think about using an alternate route, because it is heavy, then joining Outer Ring and going through towards the Eastern Bypass heavier. So it looks like it's going to be that crazy Tuesday. Outbound traffic of the city of Nairobi is not too bad this morning. Folks probably not traveling until Friday, so let's just take a look and see what happens closer to 7:30. Where are you? You stuck somewhere? Let us know. Find a good route, let us know as well. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Indeed it is. At 8 minutes after 7 o'clock, welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. As we're kicking off our hour this morning, welcome to our audience on KTN Home. Thank you for being here with us, Ndu and CT, on Kenya's biggest conversation with you this morning. And we go into a conversation of governance in this hour. Even as we do that, and saying welcome to our audience on KTN Home. Next month is D month. You know how you say D-Day? So next month is D month. Yes. It's going to be the relaunch of KTN Home. All your favorite programming, from sports to soaps to children's programs, Club Kiboko. KTN Home takes on a new look in June, and it's bringing you home with all this fantastic entertainment just the way you like it. And welcome to our audience there. And as we welcome you with that this morning, just before we say hello to our guest, we welcome you also with a cup of As Is Tea. It's a premium tea that is brewed, it's blended, all those things that they do to tea happens right here in Kenya, and it's delivered to the world. Whether it's your golden black tea, whether it's your tangawizi, whether it is your masala tea, lemon tea, hibiscus tea, purple tea, you're going to get it here on the rolling tea estates of Kiptagich in Kurusoi South District. This tea is taken to the world, and the same is sold right here in Kenya. Nothing like take your tea out and bring it and sell it back to Kenya. But it's produced here, it's sold here, the very best in a cuppa. Asis Tea. Welcome to the second hour. And as we kick that off, before we say hello to our guest this hour, CT, today's proverb.
Yes, our proverb for the day comes from the country of Djibouti, whose capital is Djibouti City. In dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps, even if counting under one's breath.
In dancing
with the enemy, meaning when you choose to dance with the enemy, you may count the steps. You don't have to verbalize it. They don't have to hear you counting them, but you can count them under your breath. Key thing is that you will still be counting your breath. I mean the steps.
Mwaure Wahiga is in the studio with us this morning. Presidential aspirant, former presidential aspirant, and today wearing a different hat as the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the National Environmental Trust Fund. Good morning to you, Mwaure.
Good morning, Hoko. Good morning, my brother Muga.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Karibu sana.
We are delighted to have you in the studio. Thank you.
Yes, asante. Last time I saw you was before August, specifically August 9th.
Yes.
How did you survive it? Good to see you. Anyway, maybe I should be answering the question.
How did we survive it? How did you survive it? Before we even get into that, well, here's a proverb from Djibouti, and they're telling us about following the enemy's step.
When dancing with the enemy.
Thank you very much. When dancing with the enemy?
Yes, when dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps, even if counting under one's breath.
What do you think about that?
Well, two almost paradoxical concepts here. One is a dance, and ordinarily a dance should be something enjoyable. And then on the other hand, who are you dancing with? The enemy. Usually you don't dance with the enemy. It's not a war game.
Sure.
And and I think it says you need to be careful, you need to be retrospective, you need to be careful. It's still your enemy you're dealing with. You don't know how the dance might end. Watch your steps. Be careful. Consider what could happen. And
Meaning continue dancing, but be on the lookout.
Be on the lookout.
Indeed. So, I mean, if we're going to get right into it, you're in the hot seat once again and having that conversation. And it's interesting that you say, watch your step, be careful in this dance. You were in a dance maybe a few months ago. You took a shot at the presidency and that didn't work out. What was that experience like for you? It wasn't the first time that you took a shot at the presidency.
Yes, up to the box. Before that, I had threatened I will or I may some years back. But this was the real thing because I went up to the box as they say out there.
Yeah.
Very interesting experience because even if you don't get it, like I didn't get it, the fact that you went this close and the fact that it could have happened, when you cross over to the other side, you sit back, you look, you say, just a minute, I went that close. And if I had been successful, what would I have been doing? But let me say, the experience before, it was interesting, very challenging, competitive politics, leave alone anywhere else. But here in Kenya has never been easy. This was not my first one. I was up against, when I think about particularly the first two, His Excellency the President now and the Honorable Raila Odinga who came in second. When I think who they were, who they have been, and how far they were in terms of popularity, followership, and here I am coming, sizing myself up to them. It's like this wrestling match, and you're this little dwarf, and you're still saying, shaking. I look back and I say, and I'm thankful that I had that occasion. And I tell friends, I may not have got it, but I feel like I got it.
Why do you think you didn't get it? It being called the president of Kenya.
Right. A number of things I could say. One, because I let me say the main one. I don't think Kenyans yet were ready for a Kenyan like me. I'm probably for the message I was carrying on one hand. Secondly, And I did not have the capital that gets one to become a president, both in a number of senses, except I had this political party, I had a nomination ticket, and I had passed the thresholds. Political campaigns in Kenya involve so much. They are involving first the financial capital, that is key. Secondary, who are you running with? Who is representing you in this part of Kenya, in the other part of Kenya? And that region, like I said, the people. But finally, I also came a little late. I also came a little late in the game. But why did I push on? Because I had a message to pass. I had something I wanted to say. And I feel I said it, even at the worst. And there are people who had it. There are people who had it because I got some votes. I have people who voted for me, even when they could see that this good brother is not going to get it. But they still woke up that morning, went to the box, and voted for the things I was saying, the ideas, and possibly for somebody's future. And that somebody could be anybody else. It doesn't have to be me.
You know, when you fall into the category of what you call a rank outsider, it reminds me of, a tale of a team from Jamaica who decided to compete in the bobsleighing competition.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes. Jamaica is not known for snow, ice, and bobsleighing at all.
No.
But they competed and they made history. You see, there's the role one plays in challenging what is considered the improbable and the impossible and presenting themselves as somebody who is willing to throw their hat in the ring, even when all logic points to the contrary. And they say, I understand you need a lot of money, I get that. I understand that you need support from 25 counties, I get all that. I also understand that you need a running mate, I understand all that. But even if I don't have all those things, I'm still going to throw my hat in the ring. Now what it does, it tells anybody who may think they're an underdog that you don't have to remain an underdog. It doesn't mean you can't get in the ring and also fight. You can. So essentially, it's the message of nothing is actually impossible.
Right. And I couldn't agree more from what you have said. I sit back. It wasn't easy in the first couple of days, but way down the line, I look back and much more from the fact that I've met people. And recently I was in this gathering of chairpersons of Prastatos who got together, newly appointed, just to get to know each other, to build each other's capacities. And a couple of them come across me and they said, you know what? You may not have got it, but we heard what you're saying. We heard what you're saying. But what I also like is two things. Just at the nick of time, I also was able to get humble and accept that I'm not going to get it. And if you remember, and I hope I'm not going ahead of your questions, it's a conversation, I conceded defeat. Endorsed one of the candidates who happens to be His Excellency the President. And it was not just conceding defeat. What I'm also happy about is that we are at a position in life, and particularly these last 2 weeks, whereby in Kenya, I've seen or started seeing some of the things I was talking about starting to be looked into and taken care of. Like I was big on corruption. I went loud on it.
Yes, you did.
Like I didn't live in Kenya. I'm the only one who could throw a stone against everybody else. And I come to you, to Spice FM this morning, excited at the happenings of the last 2 weeks, because I can see a bit of of what I was saying.
So are you saying that your message, which, yes, you were big on corruption because you did speak on corruption, you spoke about morals, you spoke a lot about the conviction of Kenyans to actually live right, and then you also talked about the economy and what needs to happen in order to spur the economy on. Right. So if these are two things that are also then being spoken of by today's administration,
right,
it's not very different from then what you were speaking of. Would you say that's the reason why you then were able to concede and then endorse the now president so quickly? Many would have said it was a quick move. Is that the reason why? Because he was resonating with your message as well?
Yeah, I first of all, let me say how thankful I am to His Excellency the President for appointing me to be the chairperson of a state corporation. One of the chairpersons I met, him and I were reminiscing, and we said, you and I didn't even vote for His Excellency, but he has deemed his fit. It's my senior in the legal profession, the former governor of Meru, Honorable Kiraito. I can mention his name, and we were looking at the magnanimity of His Excellency the President. You have taken me back to why I considered.
Yes.
I think for me there were a number of points. One, I could see it. I saw the figures. I was a witness. I had chief agent and many others in Bomas. I kept almost every 10 minutes, being advised of what was going on. One, it was clear I couldn't make it. Number two, I owe the duty of what happens in democracies. And when you get there in advanced democracies, in mature democracies, you don't continue contending when you're going nowhere. But in conceding, there is also a message you pass. It's part of your contribution to the nation. Personally, I believe when I conceded, there is a message I passed to Kenyans. For a moment, Kenyans sat back. It was a very high, I don't know if the word high noon would apply. The swords were getting drawn. There was some tension, palpable almost. And when one of the candidates comes and says, Kenyans, the correct position and the facts are, I'm not going to get it, and I concede defeat. But the second part, which for a long time I received barbs against it, is not just to stop there, but to go ahead and say, from what I see with my naked eyes. In West Africa, they say with my koro eyes.
Koro, yes.
Yeah, you see, you don't know about that.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, what we are saying, yeah? With my naked eyes, I knew who was. And as a leader, I owed a duty. I owed a duty to tell Kenyans, forget what else you are hearing, what else you are afraid of. The fact of the matter is, this is a person who is leading. But finally, to come to your question, His Excellency the President and I, it may not have been obvious or whatever, but him and I go a long way. We have met, we knew each other, we were involved in the 2010 Constitution Review. We were on one side, there were things we saw together. And I listened to what he had been saying. The truth of the matter, if I had not met the thresholds, which were there, and you remember there was a time we were 59 of us, and then 4 of us remained. If I hadn't met those thresholds, I would be on his side. Yes, there are things we shared with him. I know he was talking about corruption. He was talking about moving this country to the next level. I know he was saying, I'll be a new kid on the block, though he had been in the political. There was this talk about, I'm not from a dynastic background. I have new ideas. I've known what suffering is. I have an idea of what Kenya needs to go to. I'll make a difference. Yes, it was because a number of things I was saying, they resonated with what he was saying, though I was loud in my own way. For me, the truth of the matter is, I was beating low blows to each one of them.
Sure.
Because this is
we can't run away from some of what the chatter was at that time.
Right.
And we saw a lot of folks then scrambling.
Right.
If one were to believe the chatter, I guess, then here's your opportunity to say whether that was the case or not.
Right.
And if we see what's happening today with you being now the chairperson of the board of trustees for the National Environment Trust Fund, that many have said, well, okay, yes, you conceded at that point, but you also endorsed him. Also then perhaps clearing the path for you to then be considered for position and part of government in the future. And we see that today. Was that the reason?
I was Johnny Come lately. I am not sure about the consideration, but this is one of those things. When you wake up in the morning, you expect life may bring anything your way, and so the little prayer you say is, God, I pray whatever comes my way, you help me to meet it and to face it. You can do things from the two positions. You can carry out your ideas from outside of the inside. Yes, at the back remote of my mind, there would have been this remote idea, maybe. But also, I knew things don't always happen, not in that field. This was not my first position to run into. I am not your typical politician. No. I'm not even one. I don't consider myself as one. I like using the cliché used by many that I'm not a politician, I'm a leader. I knew this is an area where, like what I did, when you concede and it can be good riddance, get out of the way. You are a threat, not just now. Who knows? Probably even in the future. But I was open for anything. I was open for anything. And yes, the truth position is in one of those moments in the earlier days when I had occasion, because mine was not even expected. It was not one of those where you negotiate.
What was not expected?
My concession and endorsing.
Okay.
I did it on a Sunday, and His Excellency the President was declared the President the following day, Monday. Tuesday would have been the last day. And I got everybody by shock, in a sense. There are those who said, you made the wrong move. You should have first sat with this one on this side, sat with the other. No. Mine came from a conviction from within. So yes, I did in one of those occasions. I heard and I said, Your Excellency, my concession was genuine and endorsement. And if an occasion arises where I can be of help, I'll be available. And then I ran back to what I've always done after I've been involved in a political campaign. I always go back to my law practice and continue doing and serving mankind and Kenyans through that.
You mentioned that you wanted to thank the President for his magnanimity.
Yes.
In appointing you and Mheshimiwa Kretu Murungi.
And many others.
Had this discussion.
Yes.
Is it magnanimity or is it just deft political maneuvering? Because you see, if you're appointed, you have a constituency. It doesn't matter the size, but you have a constituency. Mheshimiwa Kretu Murungi has a constituency. So when you're brought into the fold, you may like it or not, but you come with your constituency. So is it magnanimity or is it just political foresight and understanding that you quieten a possible opposition by bringing them into the fold?
I share the view that has been said that we, in the meantime, have done away with politics.
Have we really?
I mean, well, there are different things we are seeing now. But the issue, there is no presidential campaign going on because it's open.
Again,
there's no open.
Really?
No, there isn't, as far as I know, because we went all the way and up to the Supreme Court, and His Excellency the President was declared the President. For my colleague whose name I mentioned, there is no governorship elections going on in Meru, and for the others. For me, I think it's him sitting back and thinking, this person is a leader. There are things he was doing. For instance, I have sat back and thought to myself, why, like where I was appointed. If you'll notice, it's a trust fund.
It is.
It's something that deals with funds. It's something that calls for trust.
Precisely. That's the constituency I was speaking of. Because you are known not to be your run-of-the-mill politician.
Right.
You don't have a scandal to your name. Billions have never been attached to your name, especially when you're looking at the wrongful means of acquiring those billions. So you have a name that has certain weight to it. It's a constituency. So when you're put in that position, the sort of eyebrows we raise when certain people are appointed to certain positions, you wonder, God Almighty, how did this person get this job? The God Almighty question isn't being asked about you. So, again, my question, is it deft political maneuvering or is it magnanimity?
Well, can we take a break and then we can come back and answer that question? Waihiga Mwaure is in the studio with us, former presidential candidate, and today in a different capacity as the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the National Environment Trust Fund, having that conversation. And now then, what it means to lend your hand to politics today. We're taking a break on Kenya's biggest conversation at 28 minutes to 8 o'clock, where I want to talk about the Kuza Awards. This year's Kuza Awards are here, and we are banking on you to vote for us. All you have to do is SMS Kuza for free to 15601. That's 15601, and vote for Spice FM as your favorite station. It's the Spice FM Kuza Awards. Remember, voting closes on the 28th of May 2023. Remember, 15601, and vote for Spice FM as your favorite station. It's 28 to 8. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 16. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's 15 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 26, and partly sunny at 16 in Nyeri, highs of 23. It's sunny at 12 in Eldoret, highs of 24, and at 25 it's mostly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a partly sunny Malindi, now at 26. It's 21 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 30, and at 16 it's sunny in Kakamega with highs of 27. At 20 it's sunny in Kampala, highs of 27, and at 25 mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 31. 8 degrees and mostly cloudy into a Johannesburg winter, highs of 17, and we'll see highs of 31 in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 25. At 24 it's clear in Kinshasa, highs of 32 and lows of 24.
Spice up your life.
Okay. Are you on the Eastern Bypass this morning, or are you on Outer Ring, Sorrows and Prayers? Because it looks really busy as you're heading out on Outer Ring. If you're trying to then connect with Thika Superhighway on the other side of things, looking at traffic coming off of Wayaki Way as well, it's pretty busy on looking at the western side of the city as well. Into the CBD coming off Langata Road is very, very busy. We're all right coming off Magadi and then joining with Bomas, but then you're going to get onto Langata Road and going to slow down just a tad as then you touch on Raila Odinga Way or getting onto Huru Highway into the CBD. Let's look at Jogo Road, which is also pretty busy as what we see right now, heading towards the City Stadium roundabout and then towards Kamkunji and then on towards Haile Selassie. So, normal more things happening this morning, but it's still pretty heavy on the Thika Superhighway as well as Kiambu Road. We're looking at traffic also coming into the city from Limuru Road. We're going to see that whole United Nations Avenue business still doing the business. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter. We want to keep things moving this morning. Let us know where you might be stuck or what's going on in your neck of the woods, and keep things moving this Tuesday.
Spice up your life.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them. Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes...
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Biggest conversation this morning in the hot seat is Mwaure Wahiga, former presidential aspirant, and today the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the National Environment Trust Fund. We've come into this now part with a question that came in from CT, waiting for your hot answer.
Right. Okay. You know, as a leader, when you sit there, when you sit over there, you look at what you can do to advance what you're doing. Yes, I believe I had a constituency. It may have been considered, but I believe much more the president must have looked at what he wants to achieve, and thankfully consider that I can do something about it. And I want to invite us to look at some very interesting things that have been happening with this presidency. I have sat back and thought about it, and let me throw this, the listeners even an answer. I've sat back and I've said, you know, people are thinking what they are seeing President Ruto doing is just something that came up the other day, or he's waking up each morning, and when things go this way, he goes that way or the other. I've started getting to understand when he says, we had a plan, we have a plan. And I will mention two things. One, I mentioned something that was very close to me, the fight against corruption. You can see what he did last week. And I want to speak here and say, as far as I can see things surmise, this battle against corruption is just starting. Then he has come up with a great interest, and it's not just, it has started now with the whole issue of climate change. And he's talking about planting trees, and in his last tour all across countries in Europe and the East, he's talking about trees. For me, what I have come just to realize is, for all the years His Excellency was in politics, and he was in those regimes we talk about who did great things, but we have blamed a number of them for corruption. He wished and looked for a day and worked towards that day, which day we say, when I grow up, I'd like to do X, Y, Z, when he would be up there and do what we are seeing. Like I said, and I said at the beginning, I'm very excited at what I saw last week. And then that is not just enough, whereby he sends away this number of people. He wants his top-notch. Thereafter, he's been traveling quite a bit. And I've been thinking, what would the Mwaure Wahiga presidency have been like if it was him who came in? But in a long while, I don't know if it was the first time, Brother Muga, you can remind me, you're a little senior than me, but we had the president of Singapore visiting Kenya. I'm not sure they just talked about bilateral.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Yes.
They talked about bilateral trade. I'm sure when they were having one-to-one, he said, you know, I want to do matters corruption, what Lee when who did in those years. When he did not just generally talk about it and take actions against, everybody, but he even went for the people who he was within the trenches. I will not be surprised. And for me, those things have been significant. Then the other thing about climate change, planting trees. And I hope Kenyans have started, or if they haven't, they will start because they are watching Spice FM, thinking about what is the president saying, what is it with the trees, what is it with climate change. We never think about that because in Africa, the sun shines 365 days in a year. There are rivers that flow all through. But the danger he is trying to look into and see. Because if I could come in for another half a minute, Africa, and we are within the tropics, have been known for trees. When you talk about climate change in Africa, we can't do away without mentioning trees. Trees have their benefits. Something I've said, when you plant a tree, you plant hope. Since being appointed, and I'm still going through my induction, I have gotten deep into what is happening, and I'm not there yet. And I am amazed. And I've thought to myself, if we continue with the deforestation we are doing 20 years down the line, I'm just throwing this, then we can get back to our question. 20 years down the line, we have done about almost 99% of forest cover we have in Kenya. What country would that be? And yet we know what trees do, apart from bringing shade, fossil on the ground, providing food for human beings and animals, keeping streams running. What is he saying? You may not have heard him talk about that much in past regimes. And I've sat back and I've said, you know what? Even over those years, the president was just waiting, praying, and working at getting there. Things need to be done, but you can't quite push them through. Now you will ask me what you want to ask me. Today I'm his advocate. Tell me.
I will make a statement, not necessarily ask. See, unlike you, our president is a politician. And he has a gift of gab. He speaks well. He explains things well. He communicates effectively. He communicates convincingly. He is a politician. Now, I thought that President Uhuru government had an enormous task, and I stated that they have a task that no other presidency has ever had in the history of this country. They were the ones who were implementing our constitution. Difficult. Now, this government, in my mind, hasn't even had a task because they are inheriting debts. But against a backdrop of COVID, where for 2 years nothing happened. So whether they liked it or not, it's not their doing. The economy did a tumble turn. But what this government will be judged on is how they manage the situations that they found themselves in. Now, a lot of the times, this more so the deputy president than anybody else, spends most of his time blaming the former government. You are in power, you are supposed to tell us what you're going to do with what you found, and you're telling us about the problem, which we all know and see. Where am I going with this? I am saying everything you say may be absolutely true. But when the conversation about changing lives remains a conversation, and there isn't ample evidence to show that that conversation is being changed into action consistently over time, then unfortunately, if there was mistrust, it grows. If there was a lack of belief, it grows, because we're saying we keep hearing, but we don't see enough. Now, there is nothing easy about running a country. There is nothing easy about communicating the things that you want to do. There's nothing easy about it. It's only easy when you're doing what I'm doing now, talking about it. When one is sitting on that seat, there are things you come across that you cannot talk about in public. But when you mentioned the founding prime minister of Singapore. We had this discussion with Bishop Emeritus David Oginde yesterday, current chair.
Noticed last evening that he was here. And
yes.
I said, what a coincidence.
And when he talked of one Lee, I said, please, whenever we mention this leader, you forget that he had people who supported him. So we don't just judge you with your words, but we judge you by the people you appoint and the people who are supposed to help you achieve this dream. So if we have questions about the people who are supposed to help achieve this dream, then we have questions about your decision-making process and your leadership. It's that simple.
And unfortunately, the last 7 months have been occupied, and here I may look like I'm taking back my words with continued politicking, like we have an election coming. I'm still one of those persons who says I saw the figures. Mm-hmm. I have not come across any other evidence. I have not been invited by anybody and shown anything. And for me, I remain with my conceding and my endorsement.
So let's assume that Kenya would have been a lot far. But we know some of the things that have drawn it back. One of those things is what we've just mentioned, runaway corruption. The bureaucracy we've seen in government over the years. And for me, going back to my law firm after about 8 months of being away, not on a full time, and I will still hear from one of my staff that a file is held in some registry, either within Nairobi Arts registry, because no facilitation has been given. That gets into my throat, and I think, at an age like this, and I will make this confession, a lot of registries now, almost all are managed by people with a legal background or who are lawyers. That was one of the things they did. In Kenya today?
Okay. People who would know the law and you can't take them around. And have had to write letters and called some of them and said, you are a professional colleague, are you not? Yes, there is this set of documents we've had to register, and we understand they've been waiting since January and you have registered others. So apart from the politics, that is the other aspect that this country has been going through. I know the president comes with something that I wouldn't have heard if I was there. And I'm not saying it would have been easy with me. I think he comes with something that Lee, when who you met,
yes,
some of the people who are involved in these things were people he was with in the trenches.
Yes.
And I'm sure it was not just easy to wake up one morning and tell them, pack up and go. But I sit here very excited, knowing, and from what I have seen, and from what I have heard. By the way, I did I mention this? That in the first few weeks, and when I was able to interact closely, I sat in a meeting where he looked at a group of people, and among them were very senior religious leaders and people of integrity, and he said, I intend to lead a government of integrity.
Okay, what would you have done differently? Let's say it was you now who was being called Your Excellency. What would you have done differently? I get the feeling that from what you're saying today, that there would have been very little you would have done differently so far from what President William Ruto is doing today. And if that's the case, then why would you have run at all?
I was very excited to see that my contemporary at the university and my former bishop, he's a senior clergy than I am. Bishop Buginde was here last night, and he talked about being in this place where so much has been done, but he was surprised that it was not out in the public domain. When I listened to His Excellency, when I listened to a lot of men and women around him, I get the impression a lot of work has been done, is out there, waiting implementation, but there are things that need to be dealt with before we get there. I get the impression there are policies, there are studies where that within a year or two, and that has been mentioned, within a year, give us 2 years, we intend to take this nation somewhere. There are those studies that are there. What would I have, and therefore, and he has been saying, give me time, give us time. What different would I have done? And do I sound like I wouldn't have done much? I believe I would have done as much as probably 60-70% of what he is doing. I probably just sense one or two areas.
Okay.
And this is not a criticism. It could be a matter of styles, and styles are different. For me, first of all, I was like a lone politician and campaigner.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have all these men around me and women whom I would have been beholden to, and therefore would have had to consider what do I do with them. I was big on corruption. I was big on the fact that, and the Auditor General spoke about it this year, early in the year. He was quoted, and I hope she was quoted right, when she said, if you have to invest stolen money, invest it then in your country.
Mm-hmm.
I was big on the fact that Kenyans have been stealing public funds and investing them in places like Dubai, Seychelles, and I was saying we need that money back. And I'm not saying that nothing is being done about it. I think it's a question of time. Probably there are things I would have gone slow about, but there are two things I know. There are some things I would come with a hammer on.
Okay.
Right now, there are things I would have done differently, but I believe they are still in the pipeline, and there are systems. For newcomers like myself, who have not been held a ministerial position or so on, there are things I would have discovered when I get there, the realities are different.
Yeah.
But one of the things I know, I would have done what he's doing matters politics, and I still foresee, and it's been out there in the media, that everybody has been forewarned. If you continue with corruption, he's not going to spare anybody.
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
So today, you're the chairperson after having your name having been seconded by the president himself.
Yes.
And then now, Madam Tuya then put your name forward, and you've then been appointed as the chairperson, Board of Trustees, the National Environment Trust Fund.
Right.
You are now working in the government, for the government that maybe would have been your government, essentially. But based on what you've just been saying, it seems as though, from what you're saying, that the president has done a better job than what you would have. You've said 60 to 70% of what he's done is maybe what you would have been able to have done by now. So then now you being given this position, is there any kind of mind shift that has occurred for you, whereby you were running against the man and now you're working with him? Has anything shifted in your mind, or are you on the same path still? And even in this job, in this position, because folks are asking, so where are you now and what are you doing? What does that entail for you in terms of moving your mind then from, this was my rival in an election, and now here I am, having been appointed by him to serve in a different capacity?
For me, one of the things that's very clear is why I was involved in the race. And I would put it simply this way. It was service to my country, service to the people. That sort of service can be done anywhere. Let me even add and say it can even be done in the private sector. It can be done here in the media. It can be done anywhere. And for me, my politics have been very interesting. I do them the last 12 months or thereabouts. And by the night of elections, when they count the votes and I have not won, the following day I adorn my tie and I go to the office and I continue doing with the profession that's my foundational profession. I am excited in my appointment because it gives me an opportunity. And like I indicated, I'm still going through the induction processes. It gives me an opportunity to action some of the things I was talking about. I have an opportunity because that's still an entity that needs the matters I was talking about. An opportunity to see that is done. How I chair the board will be very important. It comes also at a time when the government and His Excellency the President has come out guns blaring and sensitizing Kenyans about this whole issue of climate change and why it's down with us. We've just come from about 3 months of heavy drought. We never thought we could get this far. By March,
I think it was many more months than
more months than that.
Yeah.
And September, I read somewhere we might have El Nino again roundabout with us. And the effect of climate change can come from both dry weather or wet weather. We continue, destroying our forest cover. We continue dealing with our water sources. We continue not caring. We think life will always continue like this. And it's not enough, even when we read, a country like Finland has 75% tree coverage. So I read somewhere. And we are told that it has some of the happiest people on earth. A country like Israel, where the president has more than 1 trillion trees. And we know Israel is spoken about as a country which is in the desert or semi-desert, and look at the difference it has made. I feel part of the duty, my duty, is to join forces with the others, because NET Fund, that's the short name of National Environmental
Trust Fund. Yeah.
Trust Fund. Part of my duty is to join with others and ensure that Kenya doesn't go that way, or what would happen 20 years ago if we do nothing about our environment.
Maura, if I might interject,
yes.
I almost hear you saying that based on what we've seen President Ruto do in the last 7 months, that were you who are sitting in this position, even now with what you've been given as this chair, with how you've been appointed, that you wouldn't do anything differently from what he has done.
Well, I guess he is dealing with some of the things that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. That's what I am saying. He is traveling, and some people have said he's traveling too much, but I have sat back and said probably I would have had no choice, because I believe he took a country, and my brother here alluded to it, a country where what we have said, the economy was in bad shape.
He inherited an economy that had been battered.
That has been battered.
Yes.
And a country that has also had lost years. He comes with this energy, he comes with this vision, and he knows something needs to be done. Not just for the current generation, but the future. I probably would for me, there are things, not much
difference.
And I'm saying 7 months are still not a long time.
Okay.
No, they're not.
But I am happy that some of the things I was strong on, corruption.
Well, let me throw you a curveball.
He is dealing with it.
Throw it quickly.
Let me throw you a curveball.
Yeah.
Just a minute or so. In 2008, President Obama of the US had a challenger called Hillary Clinton. When he became president, he appointed her Secretary of State. Okay? His competitor in the Democratic Party.
Right.
You and Mheshimiwa Kiraitu have been shortchanged. You've been given chairmanships of parastatals when you should have been given cabinet positions, because if you want to actually bring about change, and they are individuals whom you know are strong on certain issues, you don't make them chairmen of parastatals. You give them cabinet positions where they can actually make sound decisions and be in charge of policy.
I'm not sure, my brother. While we could serve, both of us, the names you mentioned in those positions, you and I know that we've got a full cabinet. I don't see any man or woman in that cabinet in the meantime who shouldn't have been there. Of course, there's a limit according to our constitution. I would also have been careful about a bloated cabinet or government. You know what? As a leader, you have to be ready to serve in any position. And for me, even if it was a lesser position than this, I would still have taken it. Grateful. And I am grateful for that appointment.
Wow,
and I'll do my best.
Thank you for joining us this morning on Kenya's Biggest Conversation. Yes. Always great to catch up with you. We want to see what the future holds, and hopefully you'll come back and tell us how that's going. Guys, it's 8 o'clock.
spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji's journey to succeed Philip Kameru as the country's top spy now faces a double hurdle in a petition to the Public Service Commission by a group of civil society organizations and a case filed at Nakuru High Court. The civil society organizations under the umbrella body National Integrity Alliance petitioned the PAC calling for the sacking of Haji on the grounds of gross misconduct, incompetence and non-compliance with Chapter 6 of the Constitution. The group claims that through Haji's incompetence, about 7 graft-related cases involving senior government officials were dropped, costing the taxpayers an estimated 11 billion shillings at a time when the country is facing serious financial challenges. And the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has launched a digital platform for Kenyans to raise complaints and request case reviews online. Dubbed the Malalamishi system, the platform allows members of the public to lodge a complaint of criminal nature with the ODPP and also anonymous reporting through the complaint model. Director of Public Prosecutions Nurdin Haji said these will give room for whistleblowers and make it easy to track the status of a complaint since a reference number is allocated. And Pastor Ezekiel Odero will now have access to all his bank accounts that had been frozen for 15 days. The court was told that the banks complied with the investigations into the accounts. It was also revealed that none of the accounts are in Ezekiel's name. Instead, all accounts were either for the church or the school. And the National Treasury has reinstated the Insurance Regulatory Authority CEO Geoffrey Kiptum after he was sent on compulsory leave by the authority's board last week for alleged irregularities in procurement as well as accrued leave days. National Treasury PS Chris Kipto in a memo says Kiptum will remain in office pending necessary consultations. The board's resolution to suspend the CEO last week coincided with changes in its membership, with the CS Treasury revoking the appointment of 4 independent directors and replacing them with the Yasin Haji Hussein, Ambrose Mabonga Ngari, Professor Joel Chemiron and Immaculate Shamala. The Kenya National Union of Teachers Migori branch has threatened to mobilize their members for mass action if the 3% housing levy deduction is implemented. NAT Treasurer Felix Olo says teachers' salaries still haven't been increased and thus this levy would only be a burden to them.
Teachers have not been added even a single cent for a period of years now. Why tax? It is better they give us an increment in the salary, then we also accept that it is been deducted. But never shall we. We'll defend this one to the last drop of our blood. We'll mobilize the teachers. And even the strike, this is being communicated from down right from class to the national. But teachers will be out to defend this one.
These are civil society groups under the umbrella of Uchumi rejected the proposed 3% housing levy in the Finance Bill 2023. Now, the new university funding regime announced by President William Ruto will see the current scenario of cash crisis bedeviling public universities dwindle. The University Fund, which guides the allocation of state cash to public universities, has stated that the new funding formula for universities and technical and vocational education and training institutions will revolutionize the education sector. UF Chief Executive Officer Geoffrey Monari stated that the previous model, in which the government was to pay 80% of the differentiated unit cost while students cater for the 20%, wasn't sustainable. Still, on matters education, and the Ministry of Education is mulling an amendment to the Universities Act to allow centralized placement of both state-sponsored and self-sponsored students to higher learning institutions under KUCCPS. An amendment to Article 56(1)(a) will see the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Services extend its reach on admissions beyond government-sponsored students. The amendment will also mandate KUCCPS to place international students in both public and private universities. And a court in Eldoret is today expected to hear a case where a 26-year-old woman allegedly killed her sons by stabbing them. According to police officers, the woman is alleged to have killed the children after separating from her husband. Residents have condemned the heinous act. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Still busy coming off the Thika Superhighway this morning at very, very heavy traffic as you're trying to get towards that Pangani underpass. We're looking at Kiambu Road, still heavy as well. It's bumper to bumper all the way into the city. And if you look on the other side of things, Limuru as well, Limuru Road coming then past Village Market out towards the junction coming in from United Nations Avenue. That's busy as you try to get into the CBD as well. Coming out of Westlands, James Gishuru over the drift, busy as well. Waiaki Way, Red Hill Link Road is looking good. There's an option for you to get into the city. Into the CBD is where most folks are heading this morning. Likely to see more traffic as you're going out into the CBD coming off Gong Road. Mombasa Road not looking too bad. As you get towards Haile Selassie, it's going to slow down a little bit as well. Folks on North Airport Road are not having a very good time trying to get towards Outer Ring or towards the Eastern Bypass. And so that, in terms of traffic hour, is hot. It's heavy. Use your service lanes or use the Southern Bypass where there's no traffic again on a Tuesday. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter. We're trying to keep things moving this morning. Let's do it.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
The third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. It's 7 minutes after 8 o'clock. Karibu Sana. All of you who are live streaming on our channels of Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. And hello to our audiences on KTN Home. It's coming closer to June where KTN Home will be rebranding all your favorite programs, sports, children's programs, soaps, Club Kiboko, taking on a new face, new entertainment for you just the way you like it. KTN Home. Are you imagining? Are you thinking? Are you dreaming about living near where you work, living near where your children can go to school, living nearby all the fantastic amenities with access to water and electricity at the touch of a button? Well, Two Rivers is offering you that opportunity to not just live there, but actually own where you live. And they're saying, okay, so you're paying rent, isn't it? All you have to do is walk into your bank and ask them about the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company and say, look, I want to get onto this deal whereby I can have access to owning this house where I live. And they'll have a conversation with you and they'll offer you a loan at 8 to 9%. And you can then have access to one of these fantastic homes that Centum Properties has put up. And all you have to do is send a text to 22365. 22365 and get on that journey to home ownership. What's your vision? Kenya's vision 2030 is 7 years out, and that's the conversation that we'll be having this morning. But even as we kick off into that, let's start the hour with today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week from the country of Djibouti, whose capital is Djibouti City. But in addition to that, mainland Africa, it is the smallest country in terms of size, but one of the most significant. Seafaring vessels from the Red Sea move over there and it joins you to the Indian Ocean. Now, there is an intergovernmental organization that caters for this continent called IGAD. It is also nestled in that country of Djibouti. Now, Djibouti has a population of 950,000 or thereabouts. They are not very many. 2 huge languages are spoken of. 70% of the people who are there speak the Somali language. The other 30% are the Afar language. So now, national languages are Somali and Afar, but official languages are French and Arabic.
Not confusing at all.
Yes.
Okay.
Which tells you it was at some point a French colony.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're going to give us the French in Somali?
No, I will not give you the proverb in French because I do not speak French. But you do. So you can interpret it.
At a later date.
At a later date. Okay. In dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps, even if counting under one's breath.
Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi is our guest this hour.
Thank you.
He's the chairman of Vision 2030 Delivery Board, and he joins us this morning to talk about 7 years away from Vision 2030. It should have been completed. So even as one is dancing with the enemy this morning, Honorable Sakwa, welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you.
You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room. And hot matters to be discussed, obviously.
Yes.
But now CT's telling us about dancing with the enemy and having to follow their stride. What do you think about that proverb this morning?
Dancing with the enemy. I guess that's the nature of life. Dance with the enemy, you keep counting seconds when it will all be over and where you're headed and whether you'll get your steps right in the dance and so on. I think the nature of life. We have to balance off things. You have sometimes to get in unfamiliar territory, even hostile. And always be on the guard. I guess that's what it's probably all about.
What's in your basket of points today? 5,000 points for Honorable Bunyasi?
Well, actually, if we were to mark, if we had a marking scheme of 1 to 10, I'd give him 10 because it is clear. You see, the thing about and the beauty about Proverbs is that one tells you how they interpret it. So it can't be wrong.
Everybody's right.
It's how they see it and how the proverb talks to them. Yes.
Voila.
Yeah, good.
Karibu sana to the hot seat.
Asante.
We'll try to keep it hot.
That's what I've observed.
Right.
I've listened to some of your programs.
Oh, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I do. From time to time, it goes very well. Last time I listened, you had Mr. Wanjigi in this seat.
Yeah.
And he was talking about bankruptcy, including bankruptcy of nations.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
Certain decisions to be made, right?
Yeah, things like that. Yes, I had him say that.
And certain facts to be faced.
So in the year 2000, Vision 2030 was launched.
Yeah.
Officially.
2008, yes.
Yeah. And said that by the year 2030, certain things were going to happen. And if I look at Kenya Vision 2030, from the very beginning, one of the things it says is that Kenya Vision 2030 is a long-term development blueprint for the country and is motivated by a collective aspiration for a better society by the year 2030. The aim of Kenya Vision 2030 is to create a globally competitive and prosperous country with a high quality of life by 2030. It aims to transform Kenya into a newly industrializing middle-income country, providing a high quality of life to all its citizens in a clean and secure environment.
Very good.
Isn't it? That's the vision.
That's the vision, yes. And the dream.
And the dream.
Yes.
It's now 2023.
True.
Are we still dreaming? And when are we going to wake up? I guess is the question. And where are we in terms of this dream?
The process of development requires continuous dreaming, in the sense that you have to build hope and seek to realize it at every stage. It is a process. The expectations of an that it should be an event, one in which you set up that target and you cross it. I've already crossed the Rubicon here and therefore I'm done. No, it's a continuous and very fluid process, as a matter of fact. We are now 7 years away. There have been areas in which, and I will not go through a scorecard today on every item, but just broadly speaking, there are areas in which there has been a fair amount of progress towards what was expected. In the infrastructure department, for example, so to say, section of things, when we have had roads built
there may be additional issues of distributional quality and so on, but we have roads built. I think we now stand at about 25,000 kilometers that were done, for example, in the last year and a half. And many more progressively. This is not the accumulation of all the roads, but just saying where we are on an annual basis. We have infrastructure around ports, like in Lapset, trying to open up the northern corridor, and so on. So there's a lot more to be done, but there's been steady progress in that respect. We have had some of the gains people might have forgotten, but this goes back to the time when we got a new constitution. The preparation of that constitution was the first event, precursor, but also the sort of first opening success, you'd say, that Kenya was now seeking to have a predictable political environment in which they can now plan and dream, as we say. And that, I think, has gone, generally speaking, has gone quite well. It's given us this opportunity to debate things and disagree while we're within the same stable. I think that has been really a major development. The education sector, the revolutionizing the primary sector, the CBC came in. The CBC has come in with, as you know, a lot of debate and so on. But that's the nature of development, that people are people don't like change, especially rapid change and so on. But that's part of what was intended. There has been a greater realization on the blue economy, the so-called blue economy, which is an attempt to harness the resources in the sea and the water bodies, the aquatic side of things, progressively. Now, there is still a lot more to be done, and it won't all be done by 2030. 2030 shall not have become clearly and unarguably that we are a prosperous nation, but we are a nation seeking prosperity and chipping away at what needs to be done to provide better and higher incomes. And this is an interesting time to discuss this, because we are at a time when whatever this journey was, whatever dreams might have been, we may have been, sort of woken up broadly by the events that, engulfed the region, the world, including Kenya as well. First we had the COVID issues that came out of the blue and hit the sort of Tilpiga Butua, we don't know from which side. That was one. Then a drought has been raging, and so there are many things. There are many shocks, there are many ways in which you can destabilize or shake up people from their dreams, as we said. Cost of living has been rising, not this year, not last year. It's been rising over the last 5 years. It's been creeping up quite steadily. I know that for a fact, because having been in Parliament and I was in committees that looked at questions that related to this. It's just that we did not think, we thought this is a passing cloud, but this needed to be addressed. And I think it has come to a point where it is, I would say, I would hope it's at its peak, and can only get better. It has to get better.
Sure.
So, but this is something that doesn't come up overnight. This is something that you turn your blind eye, and then things sort of grow. Now, those become, when they hit you like they have in the last year and a half too, everybody begins to focus on that. But in the order of development, if you're looking at a 30 or 20-year horizon, this just becomes a slight blip in it, a painful one to live through. It's like flying through a turbulence, and you kind of think, this is there. Then after that, oops, you begin sipping your tea or whatever it is you're going to do.
So are you saying that the turbulence then does not scuttle the dream? Because
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't scuttle the dream, so you're saying it's going to happen.
The dream will still come, must come. We must aim for it. We can miss the dream if we close our eyes, altogether, and so we can't get the pathway clearly. But the purpose of the vision program is to remind us and try and bring us back each time on track, on the focus, on the dream, and also on the actions that we need to have working on the dream.
There are those who would argue that in trying to understand what can be achieved with this dream is to look at what has been achieved. Because that's a clear pointer. Because if you had this idea and Some of them have been actualized, and you can point and say, well, this has been done, this has been done.
Yes.
I am sure you have such a list.
Yes, we have the list. Let me put it this way. We at Vision 2030 are in the process of preparing a status report to address exactly this question, to say where are we in Vision 2030, and to do so with evidence, with data, and so on. That's going to be one of my first major deliverables at Vision 2030. But we do progress reports. Their progress reports are done annually, and these progress reports are different from the evaluation I am saying we're going to do. It's actually already underway.
Explain to us how.
Yes.
It will be different, please.
The difference would be, in a progress report, you're sort of saying, where was I from point 0? Where was I at 0? I'm going to 1, and so on. And if you're at 5, where was I at 4? And I'm going to 5. You can give incremental changes that you observe are occurring. And if they are continuing to grow incrementally, then you're making satisfactory progress because you're growing, you're not receding. Sometimes you might be stationary. Now, the status report, cross-sectional report, is to say what is the net effect of this accumulation of these increments that we have been having. We would perhaps say now, let us look at the road sector, not just what we did last year, we shall do this year, what has been done totally, what net effect does this seem to have towards our goal of a prosperous nation. Prosperous nation with social and economic transformation, growing and so on. We, for example, now, in the current administration, the Kenya Kwanza administration that we have now, has a major economic focus, socio-economic focus on the bottom-up economic transformation, they say. So we would, in doing this evaluation, I'll step back just a minute before I say that, but in doing this evaluation, we'll be saying, to what extent are we in sync? Are we promoting this socio-economic policy in the nation and so on? And that process, for example, has begun in the last, I think, 9 months or so. Is it 9 yet? After the last election, there have been major efforts to align the development process at the center with the county government development strategy, where they have the CIDPs, the county integrated development plans, and then to say, how does what they do, because they're using government resources, as is the national government, how can we get what they do to be consistent and in consonance with the overall development we want to achieve for the country? Yeah. And in the bottom-up economic transformation process, the choice strategy is to say we'll work with value chains in, say, for example, for the economic side of the transformation. And if you work with value chains, it means you see what is on now, but you go all the way back to its start, its finish, whatever that value chain is. Our county is going to be doing the same, and there have been major efforts trying to get them to work together. 2, it helps the counties appreciate what is the national priority and direction, and to say their share of development as well will align to those. After all development is in counties, all 100% of the development, because there's no part of Kenya that's not in a county. However, each county then has a different capacity to contribute to this vision that we have got. So what has been achieved? I think that we can look at various things. One is I talked about the road network. It's always the easier one. The engineering projects are always the easiest ones to look at because they're measurable in terms of start to finish, in terms of impact and quantum.
Because they are visible.
Yeah, because you can see the road, right?
People can see the road and so on. The social ones are more tricky because we can argue that we have achieved, have not achieved. But there is no doubt, for example, that the changes that are occurring, let us take education, are far-reaching at the primary, at the lower levels. Early childhood education has taken root. I think we are now taking it for granted, but the idea that children should go to preschool before they go to grade 1 or standard 1 is now currency, is now part of what we take for granted. This has been codified, so to say, more robustly with the onset of the Vision 2030, that it's now a formal part of education system. Now, of course, then we have gone into the CBC with the wisdom of all of who looked at it. And I think people are beginning to appreciate that it's probably different in what it does. There's still, the jury is still out there on its affordability, particularly for parents and so on. But what it does also that shook many parents is that it needs much more parent involvement in the education than was the case before. But that's one of those, and I think it will be a different generation of people later in CBC as they go through the whole system. TVETs have come in to infuse technical skills and so on and so forth. University education has exploded, as you know. And I think Kenya is now one of the few countries on the continent in which educated manpower is not in short supply. Or deploying it and getting it with the market required skills is now the next challenge. And you can do this through finishing. And so there are some of those that have occurred. Sure. On the infrastructure side, apart from roads, the port development, with the SGR, for example, now it's a reality. And we can, of course, discuss other ambient issues that were around the SGR, but be it as it was, the SGR is in place. It's actually doing what we expected to do, not fully because it wasn't taken to the end. It was supposed to go all the way to our borders to move goods rapidly through the territory. It has settled down for the time being at Naivasha. I would imagine that the next phase of it would be to get it off to Kisumu, to connect on the lake, to get it off to Busia in Malaba, to connect it, Malaba and Busia, to connect it to the western growth poles of this country, Uganda, Northern Sudan, Southern Sudan.
There are such plans in the offing.
There are those plans. So they are part and parcel of what this is all going to be about.
I want to look at the plans, because when you talk about a vision, usually the plans then essentially are what deliver this vision.
Yes.
Vision 2030 does have plans. At the very least, these plans are on paper. MPT 1, NTP 1 rather, NTP 2
and 3.
3, and then 3 comes with the Big 4 agenda, and then now 4. Now, if you look at the trajectory of these plans, from the things that you've talked about, would you say that these plans have been followed, and that within the factors that make up these plans, you would then be able to tick off and say, this is what we envision for this plan? We have actually been able to finish them and complete them, then we can actually deliver this vision in a wholesome manner. Because oftentimes, and I must be honest, it feels as though things are happening in silos. Things are just happening all over the place, and it's not following a plan. And at the risk of sounding almost cliche, we've seen economies whereby plans have clicked and plans have been followed. They've even beaten the timeline for their plans, and they have entire cities having been built fully functional where people don't even live. So here, at the risk of falling into the danger trap of doing some kind of comparative analysis with other countries, would you say that the plans that had been put out have been followed to the letter? Because if they haven't, that could probably pose as a problem.
Yes, I think that you have touched on a wide spectrum of things, including the sort of things that make planning problematic, the sort of things that can be able to divert a dream and so on. You're right. Those observations are valid completely. One reason why, when, as you know, the first president that initiated this long-term vision thing was President Kibaki. When his administration, when Kibaki left at the end of his administration, and the next administration came in under President Uhuru, he must have felt that this is too broad. I can't quite put my finger on which of these things will mark my legacy. So he decided that he will focus on a few areas. The rest will continue to be done because the government, the entire planning and development system was in the 2030 mode. What is it we can do? You're given some sort of target, a future target, a timeline. What are you doing in your sector? Whatever you are doing in as part of government service delivery, you are supposed to be focusing on to 2030. But he felt that there should be something that are even faster accelerators than the general development plan. That might have looked lackadaisical sometimes and so on, because the government is the economy-wide thing is broad and so on. So he came up with the areas and said, let us push manufacturing to move much faster than it is doing now. So that we can achieve our goals. And, there has been mixed results on that, and I can comment a bit on that also. He talked about health. Health is a critical function. And it's one thing that teaches every household in this country. And he thought about having, which was intended, universal health care. He said, let us push that universal health care and so on. So there are various areas where this was done. But then what happened? Of course, housing. Housing is a big issue, particularly in urban areas. He pushed that, not to the exclusion of the others, but I guess it was a way of seeking to get these drivers and these transformative sectors to move faster. If manufacturing had moved at the pace it was intended, it will chip away at unemployment substantially in the formal sector and so on. So all those intentions were great. The achievements in terms of manufacturing, we wanted manufacturing to grow to a point where it was about 20% of GDP. It moved up for a while steadily towards 10, 11 and so on. But it's like a yo-yo. It can go forward, it can go back. And then it sort of slid back a bit to 8-point-something% and so on. But the intention is to push it back towards 20. It's a battle. It's like you're pushing up this heavy object on a slope. If you relax, it will push you back. And so the force to push it must be continuous and so on. And with those intentions, you might reach soft ground and you still slide and so on. But the intention is kept on going back there.
Indeed. At this point, I wanted to take a break and come back and continue with this conversation. The vision is broad, but it's necessary for us to look at some of the details in terms of then where are the challenges. Yes. And is it okay to say that 2030 will come round and maybe some things will not have been achieved? So then what must we do about that? Okay. Kenya's biggest conversation will take a break. But before that, let me tell you about Kiptegich Tea Estates in Kurusoy South District, whereby, interestingly enough, one of the taglines of Vision 2010 was build Kenya, buy Kenya, right? So here's an opportunity to do just that. The tea that is presented on the global stage, premium tea, grown here, manufactured here, sold here, good enough, if not better than what is sold on the global market, right here in Kenya. Different blends of hibiscus, ginger, masala, purple tea, lemon tea. I tried the lemon and ginger combined. It's fantastic. And these guys are offering you tea as is. Kiptegich Tea Estates on that side of the country, the rolling tea estates, offering an opportunity to build Kenya, buy Kenya. And CT has some of that for you today, Honorable Bonyasi.
I do actually.
He does?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's lovely. Are you serious?
Can you imagine?
So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go try it. I will, for sure.
Delivering the vision.
Yes, delivering the vision, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm an avid tea drinker.
You are a tea drinker?
Yes, so... I will. I appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
But in our culture, these things are supposed to be reciprocal.
Don't worry.
I wasn't alerted to remember to...
Actually, it is reciprocal because by your being here, you played your part. Now we were playing our part.
Oh.
So we were reciprocating.
That's giving me comfort.
You've come to our house, we must give you something.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, as we come to that break, remember Spice FM Kuza Awards. This year's Kuza Awards are here, and we are banking on you to vote for us. All you have to do is SMS Kuza for free to 15601 and vote for Spice FM as your favorite station. Remember, voting closes on the 28th of May 2023. It's Kuza 15601. Vote today.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk that midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Chilled Spice.
Sunny at 17 in Nairobi, and we're looking at sunny at 17 in Nakuru, 16 and mostly sunny in Nyeri, and at 17 or sunny conditions through Eldoret, going to highs of 25. It's 26 and sunny in Mombasa, and we're looking at 26 and partly sunny in Malindi. At 21, sunny conditions in Kisumu, and it's sunny at 19 in Kakamega. We're looking at 21 and sunny conditions in Kampala. At 27, the sun is up in Dar es Salaam as well. A bit cooler at 8 in Johannesburg, and at 25, we're looking at cloudy conditions in Lagos. At 23, it's sunny in Kinshasa. It'll go to highs of 32, lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so folks decided that they're not going the other way and they're going to go into the southern bypass, and we're looking at a seeping off of that traffic from the Likoni interchange. So it shouldn't last for too long. As you get to the junction coming off Langata Road, you should be all right getting into the city, into the CBDs where most of it is happening. This morning, we're still looking at some movement going on the Thika Superhighway. It's looking a little bit better now. Folks using these service lanes, so you should be okay. Kiambu Road is still pretty busy. You'll probably have a bit of a headache getting off of that. As you get towards Muthaiga Square, you should be then fine thereafter. Limuru Road is still looking busy. Folks coming off the Red Hill Link Road are joining Limuru Road and then bringing all that traffic back into the city. Why? Okay, Waiaki Way is not looking too bad, so there's an option for you to use to get into town. James Gishero off the drift, a little bit of traffic here and there. It's your normal Tuesday morning, nothing out of whack. Let us know just in case it does. Spice FMKE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 22 minutes to 9 o'clock. 22 more minutes of this conversation of Vision 2030. 7 years out to that date. The Honourable Sakwa Bunyasi is with us in the studio. He is the chair of the Vision 2030 Delivery Board, and we're having that conversation this morning, going through the motions and saying there were plans that were put out. There is money that has been spent. There's even more money that has been allocated. What challenges have been faced in delivering this vision to date until 2023, whereby we're saying 7 years to go? And we could even get, religious here and say 7 years, 7 is the number of perfection. In the next 7 years, these things will be perfected. Is that speaking idealistically, or are we saying that it's very possible that we're going to get to 2030, right? And some of these things that we talk about having served as deliverables will not have happened. I'll give you an example. I mean, in the very about of Vision 2030, what are some of the things that we said? That it was to make sure that Kenya is a middle income country providing high quality life for all, not some, all. Not medium quality, not low quality, high quality life So if you look at the very basics, food, shelter, if you look at healthcare, if you look at education, that it has to be at the top for all Kenyans by 2030. Is it possible to deliver 2030, the vision, from what you're seeing?
It is problematic to deliver it to the letter as you stated, which is really the intention. That's the goal.
Vision 2030 stated, though. Not
yes,
me.
Yeah. You've just read it out for us.
Yes.
No, just thank you very much, in fact, for that reminder. I'm sure to our audience also it's very useful.
Yeah.
We want to be a middle-income country. Yes, we're a lower middle-income country. The idea is to be higher within the middle. There's the lower and the upper. We want to edge up even more and be solidly in the middle with little risk of sliding back. And I think that has remained as a goal. The advantage of keeping it as a goal in whatever we are doing is that we're measuring ourselves in terms of where we should be, not back from where we have come from. That's very useful, but how far do we have to go? If you're an athlete, you must reach the finish line. Otherwise, all your effort. If a Manyala goes and stops a meter short of the finish, he's not done, despite all the energy has expended. So that, I think, that goal, aiming, striving to go forward, I think is a very good thing in Kenya's current development stance. Now, shall we get there? We might fall short of some of that. One, we have not achieved in the manufacturing sector the target growth that we had expected. We had expected to get to be nearer, probably by now we should be nearer 17, 18% as we head down towards 30. This sector has been struggling for various reasons that are not inside the sector necessarily. Some are, some are not. Because, for example, if I may just comment a bit on manufacturing, the issues around cost of power are still a challenge for industry. The global factors that have been a problem are still a problem. For example, now the U.S. development policy of raising interest rates is sucking out foreign exchange from across the world, and people are preferring to go into that market. So we have these challenges. We think they are going to be short-term challenges, and so on. So there are factors that may militate against our getting there. Of course, we have the issues related to drought and climate change and so on. But let us say this is part and parcel through which we are expected to navigate. It's not as if they were completely unexpected. In the process of development around the world, you always expect there will be some outside factors, exogenous as they call them, outside factors that might affect what you're doing internally. The challenge is not that they can't occur, but that when they do occur, your coping strategy is a tested one, is a good one, and so that you can, muddle through and move forward. A lot of this is muddling through, I can assure you. When you look back, looks good. But as you look forward, there are so many unknowns. You just have got to get the best way going forward. Shall we get there by 2030? Shall we be a prosperous nation with high quality life, including a good environment and so on? That's probably a little ambitious, but we shall be along that route that has been stated.
When one talks of dreams and hopes, those who believe in the Christian faith and read the manual of operations for that faith called the Bible, there's a sector in that book called the Old Testament, and there's a story of a gentleman who had a dream. This is Vision 2030. Him, it was Vision 77. 7 years of drought, 7 years of plenty, and the other way around. But the reason why that dream became a reality was because the person who was in charge of that particular country decided that this person who had the vision was to be given power. And the power that person was given was only second to his. So he said, okay, come up with a plan to ensure that when we have plenty, we will be able to do whatever is necessary so that we survive the other 7 years when there's absolutely nothing. So, I think you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Okay.
Yes.
You have a mandate.
Yes.
To fulfill this dream. What muscle do you have to ensure that it is fulfilled?
Okay. Good point. Vision 2030 is, you could say, is a coordinating shop. It is an advocacy shop. It does not hold resources whatsoever. There are no resources allocated to Vision 2030 to cause the development we have talked about.
Powers?
The powers, there are powers of voice to be able to identify where there is action, where there's lack of action, to point out as we sit together with the actors in the economy. On the board of Kenya Vision 2030, for instance, all the permanent principal secretaries are members of the board, plus others, private sector 7 and their other actors, Central Bank, Capital Markets Authority, all of the big wigs that are in development. As you get together to say, we are moving forward on this, we are sliding on that, and so on. So it becomes a voice that can call out where there is action or the lack of action, so that the institutions and the authorities, as they listen to it, can redirect resources, can sort of hit the knuckles a bit and say, come on, let us wake up, let us move forward. That's what it does, really. It doesn't hold a muscle in terms of resources. We can deny anybody, but we can point out where there is lacuna and where there is some progress. That's a powerful tool too.
Indeed.
It is indeed, but you see, if I look at other government agencies or government departments who are mandated to carry tasks that are of national significance and import, they have teeth, they have muscle. It's like telling me now that, for instance, just as an example, that KRA was an advocacy group advocating for the collection of taxes. How would that go? How far would you get with that? Or the Kenya Police Service is an advocacy group that meets with all the top officials of government to discuss and talk about the possibilities of ensuring that there is security in the country. Or, let me take it even further, the military. If it was an advocacy group that sits together from time to time to talk about how it is, we as a country can protect ourselves and the sort of things we ought to do, and yet somebody else has the powers to actually implement, how far would we go?
I hear you. In this case, the difference is that the actors in this are in place. The resources are put in areas of action. You put it in agriculture, you put it in roads, you put it in the military, you put it in defense, in security and so on. You actually have actors who exist for the purpose of meeting this goal. The only thing then that you need is to say, how do we know all of this has happened? Instead of listening to 20, 30 different voices, you can get them to come from one coordinated, not necessarily centralized entirely, but coordinated place. So the fact that this coordinated place does not have the muscle by itself is not totally disadvantaged, because we get a voice, we speak all the way to it reaches the president almost continuously. We are located in the presidency. I have my appointment from the president. I report back through his most immediate teams, like head of civil service, like the various CSS, like public prime cabinet secretary and others. We report through those channels that go back to the presidency, and the presidency is the symbol of government. Is the head of government, all right, but it's also the symbol of national unity and growth and development. He's not going to ignore it. He exists as president for the reasons of achieving this goal. So by talking to him in a responsible way, meaning that we leave out the hypes and the complete lies and other things that might emanate from the various subsystems under him, and report what is important and what can move these things forward, and report what is not working as well. So the lack of that muscle is, in a sense, compensated by you can say leverage. What's the leverage? That the voice of in terms of what's happening, what's not happening, has a way of getting the wheels of the system to turn and so on. So it's not entirely air. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But the very structure of it comes in with the inbuilt roadblocks, because your success is going to be measured by the representative ministries and departments.
Precisely.
Now, if you look at the individualistic manner in which government works, depending on which ministry, and how cloistered they tend to be with functions that pertain to them alone, There is no guarantee that the functions that attribute directly to this vision will take priority.
Now, there wouldn't have been, except that in this case, what the Vision 2030 did is to transform all of the services of government, all of them, to have goals related to where they want to be by 2030. They brought all of them in the fold. So everything that is done, everything entirely that is done by each of these government agencies is to say 2030 for us is a symbol of how we must develop our capacity to deliver services to this country, and what is it that in our own sector we would like to do by that time. So the entirety of what they are doing is headed towards 2030. Now, if we say there is a lack of achievements alone, it means that these particular sectors or departments or sections have not picked up as fast as they would have liked to do so themselves, because now everything is inside it. Now, I should have mentioned, of course, that it's not all public sector. Of course, public sector is the most obvious one, is the one that votes the resources. The intention was to have 30% public sector contribution and about 70% private sector contribution. To do these other investments and changes and reforms in a way that improves the working environment for the private sector so they can unleash their own resources and invest into it. If this were to turn out to be an entirely, the expectations and the actual actions to be entirely government, that obviously would be completely slow. We can never achieve where we are intended to go.
Sure. Does there not then need to be a symbiotic relationship between the brick and mortar and the very spirit of this vision? Because we can talk about all these things needing to have happened, but then the people who deliver, because you talked about representation at county level, there's no part of this country that's not in the county. Everybody has a little bit of their own to deliver. And it all is the little pieces that make up the vision. But if we don't carry that vision, if the folks who are living out the very physical manifestation of this vision, whether it is turning up at work every day and doing a little bit of what needs to happen, if you don't imbibe it, to me it's almost impossible to deliver it. I remember something that I read about the Chinese leader Mao Zedong, and people would carry around the little red card, and it was always about Chairman Mao, that whatever it is he said, this is where he's leading the country. So everybody, didn't matter whether you were a student overseas, didn't matter whether you were an engineer somewhere in Shanghai, everybody was carrying around Mao's creed. So if we're saying that this is where Kenya ought to go, and the very people who are to deliver the vision, their little part of it, in wherever they find themselves, don't carry the vision, to me, it seems like a very difficult feat.
You have used a very, very good example. Let me just pick up for a moment, and then I'll get into the other part of the comment you've made. That era in China, when Mao was like, we could say, in ordinary parlance, a god, a demigod, yes, and that kind of thing, had one lasting impact even after he left. Loyalty to goals. Loyalty to the nation. The Chinese are very strong in that. They may have had some of those cultural facets, but before the revolution, they had gone different ways. You know, like we do in many of these capitalistic countries, everybody goes his own way. But that card carrying, both in reality and as an idiom, as an imagery, was extremely powerful. It delivered behind a nation of high achievers, with clear goals and so on. And with the more recent past, where the gains to individuals now are greater than they had been during Mao's time itself. So, similarly, if in Kenya we get used to the idea of planning towards a goal, so that resources are allocated in relation to the speed with which you're moving and the distance you still have to go to reach to, let's say, 2030. And by the way, we have used 2030 simply because that's the one in vogue now, in place now. But this visioning into the future is going to be a continuing process. We soon will be thinking about the era beyond 2030 and saying, we've only gone this far. What did we not do right? And that's why I'm saying this rigorous evaluation we shall do will help us with those questions. And I will request at that time that you allow me back, and that's so that we can tell you now where exactly we have reached on this. And that we need to continue. For example, now the thinking is, yes, take stock accurately of what is happening towards 2030 and 2030 itself, but you must then think beyond.
Sure.
You're going to be thinking beyond because the other institutions around the world, the United Nations, the global goals around the SDGs, the African Union, they're all now beginning to think about African Union is thinking about 2063, which happens for us. In 2063, we shall be 100 years old. So after 2030, we'll probably think about Kenya at 100. But then taking a realistic assessment, what it is that worked in our effort to coordinate our resources, to think in a way that takes us in the same direction for everybody. And why is that important? It touches everybody's life. You talk about health. My grandmother in the village doesn't know about 2030, but she knows that the health facilities have either moved on properly or they have slid back. And they are no longer working as well as they were. That's a commentary on either towards success or failure. And then how do you adjust? And hopefully we can get harmony between county government operations and goals and goal setting and implementation capacity as well as the national government. And, a sliding can occur on either side, either county governments or national governments. Governments have, this government has got goals, for example, just to conclude on that point, has got goals in the agriculture. Agriculture is so important to both as a transformative milieu, but also because it's a large part of our economy, to say what things can we do well. Well, we talked about leather, we have talked about textiles, we talked about milk, and so on, specific ones that we talk about meat, and so on. So there are many dimensions to horticulture, and so on and so forth. The means of getting there is opening up markets, infusing technology, and so on. So if we all work broadly in that direction, county governments will be doing their thing, national government, but we are generally consistent in moving in the forward direction. That's how development occurs. But there are some countries that have moved much faster than others. And I know in Kenya it's very fashionable to be up on a platform, particularly for us. Me, I'm an ex-politician, but say for practicing politicians, to say, Kenya and Korea
used to be at par.
We used to be at par. You heard that story.
Yes.
We heard very often.
That's right. Yeah.
We even throw in Singapore.
We even throw in Singapore for good measure. Yes. They even say, Singapore came benchmarking here. So and so came benchmarking here. And then the question is, so where are they, where they are, and where are we, where we are? And there are many factors that people have used. I don't want to divert the discussion by getting into those factors, but that each nation has its own. We should worry about our uniqueness that's making us not move up as fast as Korea. We have to go to Korea now. Not only we can't even benchmark. We just go there to admire, and we benchmark on still fairly limited aspects of what they have achieved. Limited. They have completely revolutionized their societies. Ways of lives have disappeared, new ones have come in, and so on. And there are challenges in rapid growth as well. But maybe it's a challenge that would be admirable to have than the one we have got now. Too rapid growth rather than not adequate growth. So we have to work within what we can, what we have. Yeah. And we should keep our eyes on the ball. That's the important thing.
How much has been spent to deliver this vision until where we are today?
I don't have the figure to give you now, but you can say from the public sector, is the totality of the annual public expenditures that we incur. Because now everything we do is headed towards 2030. Even in the security sectors, it will be, they are also thinking, they're modernizing and so on, and they have got their plans by such a time, we should have this capacity and so on. So all the totality of our expenditure is what we are spending on the 2030 view. Nothing is outside.
So we're saying even as we go into June to deliver a new budget in Kenya, that all of that will go into making sure that 2030, the Vision 2030,
that the goals were nearer. Now, the only ones that you could say from a technical point of view that does not go towards 2030 are the leakages, the corruption, the wastage, and so on. Now, those are resources that are not helping in that journey. But it's baggage that somehow in a human institution, in the Kenyan setting, let us not put it all humanity around the world. The Kenyan setting, we know that issues around wastage, issues around corruption have become part and parcel of us. And this is a big fight, bigger than fighting for the goal of 2030, you have to try to reduce that as well. Other than those, the net resources that are actually spent towards development are towards Vision 2030.
Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi, thank you for joining us this morning. Vision 2030 obviously is a conversation that we can't stop having.
No, it's a continuous.
If the country got on this path, it needs to continue, and we look forward to that report coming out. And we'd love to have you back in the hot seat as we look towards 2030 being delivered. Thank you for joining us in Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. See you again soon, folks. We're getting round to 9 o'clock. Conversation continues.
Spice up your life.
Radio.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. ODM has asked Siaya Deputy Governor William Oduor to resign on grounds that the indifference with Governor James Orengo is affecting service delivery for the citizens. According to National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Ndai, the worsening relationship between the two cannot allow them to work together.
I find the continued stay of Honorable Oduor in the position of Deputy Governor under Honorable Orengo totally untenable. Accordingly, it is my advice, both in my official capacity, pursuant to Article 43, Sub-Article 1B of the ODM Constitution, and as bona fide voter in Siaya, that Honorable Oduor should tender his resignation without any further delay. This would then create room for Honorable Orengo to appoint a replacement with whom he can harmoniously steer the county government of Siaya.
He pointed out that Oduor has already shown that he has lost faith in Governor Orengo's government pushing for urgent measures to be taken. He blamed the deputy for raising allegations of corruption without providing sufficient evidence related to the allegations.
The Siaya public, and indeed the entire nation, has been treated to a litany of allegations of corruption and other irregularities in the county government by Honorable Oduor. Now, whereas I abhor corruption in all its manifestations, I believe in the sanctity of due process. Moreover, in common law, he who alleges bears the burden of proof. That is partly why I have, up to today, maintained a studious silence over the raging controversy.
Now, police in Kakamega have apprehended 2 robbery suspects believed to be behind a string of robberies witnessed in Kakamega, Vihiga and Uasin Gishu counties. Patrick Mangali and Dennis Indeche were arrested by officers masquerading as Juakali traders after a chase which ended at Rivalua Tingu, where the main suspect is said to have plunged into the river to flee the sleuth. According to a statement from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Mangali then led the officers to a toilet at the homestead in Lower Tingu Mongulu area, where a firearm believed to have been stolen from a police officer was recovered from the pit latrine. The detectives also impounded a motorbike that is believed to have been the gang's getaway means. And third National Annual Symposium on Public Participation is scheduled to be held in Naivasha. The symposium is organized by the Center for Parliamentary Studies and Training in collaboration with other services of Parliament, including the National Assembly, Senate and Parliamentary Joint Services. The event will be officially opened by Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, and closed by Senate counterpart, Amason Jeffakingi. The primary objective of the symposium is to provide a platform for professionals working in the governance sector, such as parliamentary training institutes, legislative staff, academia and non-state actors, to engage in robust discussions and share knowledge and best practices. Now, Kenya Bureau of Standards Managing Director Bernard Njerain and 7 others denied a criminal charge of stealing condemned brown sugar valued at 20 million shillings. The accused were arraigned before the Nairobi Milimani Chief Magistrates Court, where they denied the offence and were released on a cash bail of 400,000 shillings each. Now, Nigeria commissioned Dangote refinery amid hopes of transforming the country into a net exporter of petroleum products, but analysts say securing crude supplies could affect it achieving full production this year. The government of outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari sees the refinery as the answer to Nigeria's repeated fuel shortages, the latest of which hit the country in the run-up to February's disputed presidential election. Nigeria spent $23.3 billion last year on petroleum product imports and consumes around 33 million liters of petrol a day. Dangote's 650,000 barrels per day refinery plans to produce 53 million litres a day. The plant plans to export the surplus petrol, turning Africa's biggest oil producer into an export hub for petroleum products. It also plans to export diesel, according to Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, who funded the refinery's construction. And South Africa's presidency says 6 African leaders are proposing that Ukraine accept opening peace talks with Russia, even as Russian troops remain on its soil, as South African officials prepare to visit both countries to sell the idea. Ukraine said Russian troops must withdraw from its territory before talks start, while Moscow wants Kyiv to recognize Russian sovereignty over Crimea, which it annexed from Ukraine in 2014 as precondition for negotiations. Russian forces carried out a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the initiative on May 16th. President Macky Sall of Senegal, last year's African Union chairman, whose country was not present at the latest UN vote condemning Russia in February this year, leads the initiative. The peace mission is expected to travel to both Moscow and Kyiv in early June. This is News. I'm Dennis Asato. Good morning.
Traffic on Vibes Radio.
Mulibwanje, Mulibwanje, Mulibwanje.
What?
Mulibwanje.
What the hell is Mulibwanje?
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so we're still looking at traffic in certain parts of the city. It doesn't look too bad right about now. Getting closer to 9 o'clock, we'll do that on a Nairobi morning, and it reduces quite significantly in certain parts of Mombasa Road, as well as on the Thika Superhighway. It doesn't look too crazy. You'll be able to traverse it rather. All right. Kiambu Road, still pretty busy as it is on Limuru Road, a little bit here and there. We're looking at traffic coming off of Wayaki Way into the CBD. All right, let's take a look, see what's happening into Uhuru Highway from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Not too bad. You should be fine as you get past that Haile Selassie junction. If you're heading into Westlands, you should be okay. You're going to slow down at your junctions as you're progressing towards Westlands. And if you're coming into the CBD, it shouldn't be too painful from Moranga Road, getting to the Globe Cinema overpass. Okay, so that melee that was on the North Airport Road is still there. A little bit as you try to approach North Airport Road, rather outer ring from North Airport Road. But then onto the Eastern Bypass, you'll be fine. We're getting out of traffic hour according to TikTok of the clock. Let's see what happens half an hour from 9. Okay, let's do it. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Biggest conversation this morning at 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Ndu and CT with you this morning, and where we get a chance to remind you about how your dreams can become a reality, and this is on the journey towards home ownership. So the folks at Centum decided, you know what, we've built up these fantastic real estate properties at around 2 rivers, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, access to electricity all the time, access to great water supply. You can live next to where you work. You can also live next to where you play in terms of amenities for children, and also play spots for the adults, if you know what I'm saying. So what Centum has said is one of 2 things can happen. You can send a text to 22365 and find out how you can get one of these units as your own. So maybe there's not enough buck for your bank. What you do, you step into your bank, your bank and ask them about the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company, right? They'll tell you about it and they'll say, okay, you say, I want part of that deal. I want to be able to get a mortgage so that the rent that I'm paying today can actually go towards me owning this spot. And they'll say, yes, we give it to you at 8 to 9%. And then you can get on this journey towards home ownership. Sound good? I think so. Let's do it with Centum. So you text the words 2 Rivers to 22365. Home ownership is just a call away. Okay, as we get into the final hour of this conversation, we'll be having a chat about entrepreneurship, young people, and what you can do to get on the entrepreneurship journey in these dire economic times. Things that you can do for yourself. And that conversation comes in after CT gives us the proverb.
Yes, which is from the country of Djibouti. In dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps, even if counting under one's breath.
I actually do like this proverb very much.
You do, huh?
It was interesting. Yes, you normally...
The dancing, the enemy, the counting under one's breath.
I'm just thinking that, usually when you're... I think it was Wahiga Mwara who said, usually when you think about dancing, you tend to dance with somebody that you like.
It's supposed to be something you enjoy.
It's supposed to be fun, right? But the rules of dance does not take into consideration whether you like this person or not. The rules is that you follow, you'll be in step, you'll be in stride, you'll be in rhythm. Otherwise, you're not dancing that dance.
The word dance also is used in situations where, unfortunately, the outcomes are not pleasant. Like, for instance, if you watched some of these nature movies and documentaries where 2 snakes are fighting, they'll call it the dance of snakes. And it often ends up with one snake probably being eaten by the other. So much as you're calling it a dance, because somebody has found rhythm in the way they are fighting, the end of it is fatal.
The end of it is fatal.
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting. As we await our guest to come in this morning, having a conversation about youth, how entrepreneurship and how we can get ahead in these tough economic times. Note how I said we, call police if you like. We're talking about the options.
We.
Yes, now. Even you can be we, CT.
We meaning yes, in French.
Oh. Touché, monsieur.
Okay, even you touché, monsieur. Touché, madame.
Touché, madame. Jared Oundo is the National Coordinator of the United SMEs Association of Kenya. And he's going to be with us in a minute as we have that conversation, even as he sits down and gets warmed in the seat. Tough economic times have been described over the last, few decades. And that has been when you saw crunches in the Western Hemisphere, when you saw the mortgage crisis in the global north, when you then saw cash crunches on this side, economies having been starved because of things like corruption, and you think, my goodness, where exactly are we going? And so it's on that precipice that we have this conversation this morning, and we say good morning to you, Jared Oundo. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm very fine.
You are here?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. You are in the hot seat.
Yeah, many thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jared Oundo. For those who are listening to me for the very first time, I'm the National Coordinator of United SME Association of Kenya. Yes, and I'm a young person.
Okay. All of those things.
Yes.
It's like one happy sandwich and we're happy for it.
Yes.
So you missed CT's proverb. You missed the proverb.
He didn't miss it.
He didn't miss the proverb.
He can repeat it.
That's the point.
Yes.
He didn't miss it. We said it when he wasn't here.
Yes.
So now we are going to say it when he is here.
And then you can tell us what you think about it.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
In dancing with... But our proverbs for this week come from the country of Djibouti.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
In dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps.
Yes.
Even if counting under one's breath.
Yes.
That's a proverb. And we're going to ask you what you think of the proverb.
You can repeat again.
Even 3 times if you wish.
Yes.
In dancing with the enemy, one follows his steps, even if counting under one's breath.
Yes. Well, this is what I think. Whenever you're dancing with the enemy, of course, this is, I'm dealing with someone who might harm me. You have to look at how he's doing stuff, and you need to calculate your move so that you don't injure yourself.
How does one get injured when dancing?
Well, yes, you have never heard of that. People get injured when they are dancing. But, basically, what I was looking at it.
What do I need to do in order to get injured when I'm dancing?
Have 2 left feet.
You can have 2 left feet, as she has just said. You can overdo it the way David did it. Even his clothes fell down. Yeah, but there's also that possibility. Just maybe you might have overdone it. You are tired, you are fatigued. Like maybe for you, now you are 17 years of age. I'm so sorry.
I've heard you, by the way. Do not assume that I've not heard you. I've heard you.
Loud and clear.
I've heard you. You just called me ancient. I've heard that.
Yeah, my apologies.
Don't apologize.
Yes. Waswahili wanasema shakumsi matusi, naomba niwie radhi. Thank you.
Gentleman,
thank you very much. Yes. Such things make
and he passed
happy.
that exam.
Yes.
All right, Jared, you're the chairperson of the National Association of SMEs.
I'm the national coordinator. I'm the SG. Mimi ndio atoli wa huko.
You're the OG SG.
Yes.
GOAT. Okay.
Yes, the SG. So we have a chair.
Right.
Yeah, a chair is called Judy Kimotho.
So you're not the chair?
Yeah, I'm not the chair. I'm the SG.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So the SG is technically the national coordinator.
No problem.
Yes.
Now, what is this Association of SMEs?
Yeah, the Association of SMEs basically is an umbrella that brings together SMEs, our small business and medium enterprises in Kenya. So our purpose basically as a small as SMEs Association of Kenya is to bring together businesses that are within that category that is described as small, medium and enterprises. So one of the things that we do as an association is to ensure that we fight for the rights of the SMEs. And every economy, for it to be like our Kenyan economy, SMEs are the backbone of our economy. They contribute of the 90% of employment in these countries are from
what
SMEs.
Percentage again?
About 90% of
90% of employment in these countries
yes,
by
90%
SMEs.
is from the SMEs. Yeah. So only few of us, even if you look at your circles, only few are lucky to have a job like yours from a serious institution like this or from the government. But a number of us are small traders, say that tunauza matunda, or we are in Juakali sector, or we are running a small consultancy firm, we are running an auditing firm or something like that, or even a legal a law firm. Yeah, so those are SMEs. So SMEs are described in terms of how many people are they employing, and also in terms of what is their total turnover per year. Yeah, so that's what describes an SME.
Who sets the standards for determining what the turnover should be in order for one to be, by definition, referred to as an SME?
Okay, basically this has been set by World Bank.
Why?
And
Why are we listening to World Bank on this matter?
That is one of them. You ask me examples. So there's also one of them has also been set by there's a Parliamentary Act of 2011 that describe who are SMEs. Yeah, who are micro enterprises, who are medium enterprises, and who are the large
I'll tell you why I'm
corporates.
asking you this question.
Yes.
Because when you talk about SMEs,
yes,
the one discussion which isn't very far away,
yes,
is the story of being a middle-income country or a lower middle-income country.
Yes.
Again, the question: who decides?
Yes.
And what does, when you're told you're middle income, what does it mean?
Yes.
How much do you need to earn for you to be any of these things so that you can fit in to this particular definition?
Yes.
You see, if you say, for instance, that internationally there is a cap that is put on a minimum wage that somebody should earn in order to live.
Yes.
Should we say a reasonable life, isn't it?
Yes, it's true.
Okay. Again, World Bank will come in, IMF will come in, even the UN might come in.
Yes.
And then you ask, okay, if we convert that amount into what people earn and survive with in a setting like ours, is that yardstick really representative? That's really the question I'm asking.
Yeah, well, in one way or the other. However, we as country, we have different countries. What we call a middle person or a middle income, income group in Kenya is not what's a middle income in countries like Singapore. I know I heard you mentioning Singapore and with the Bunyasi, or the US or other tiger economies.
But it should be.
Yeah.
But it should be.
Yeah.
Because middle income should have the definition of middle income. It shouldn't matter where you are, that it should be middle income. Because I think the point is that you're trying to get economies to all be at that place, so that people who are middle income in the US, for example, if they come to Kenya, they should not be shocked. That's what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
That middle income, it shouldn't matter where you are. Middle income is middle income. And that there are certain numbers that define then how you arrive at middle income. It can't be that let's decide what our middle income looks like in Nigeria, or decide what it looks like in South Africa, and the people in Brazil can decide what their middle income is. No, it's a global number, or it's a global strata that everybody uses and is defined within that particular space. Is it not?
Yeah, I totally agree. However, every country has their, like Kenya, we have Kenya National Bureau of Statistics that has set the standards. It depends on what everyone earns in that particular country. Like now, I'm not so sure which school you are, but I think you're in Alliance High School.
No, far from it, actually.
No,
please embrace it.
Sorry. Okay.
Yes.
If you're in Alliance High School, and him and I were at Highway Secondary School, which is just here. I was in Highway all the time. I was the one among the top boys. I was actually the top student in my class from
Jared.
Form 1 to Form 4. You know, I used to get a B+, 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 B+. But now, if I was in Starehe Boys Center with a B+, I might maybe be among the lower middle in that particular class. So it also depends with which country you are. As you know, also our economies are not the same. We have the least developed countries, we have the developing countries, and we have the developed countries. So I think we should also agree where we are, so we are able to fit. If we are having the global standards, then it means most of us in this particular country will be the lower income level.
But exactly.
Yes,
that's
yes,
exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I am saying.
But because we have to have our own
that's exactly where we are.
Yes.
I mean, for instance, if you were to give an example of this country, when somebody takes a loan, whether it's a SACCO loan or a bank loan, and you've been out of college or whatever institution you're in 5 years, and you buy a vehicle, and you drive to your rural home, most people who see you consider you to be rich.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. But you are not.
Even if the vehicle is not yours.
The vehicle actually isn't yours. It is owned by the bank and you.
Yes.
And you're still paying the debt.
Yes.
Okay? You took another loan to build a house.
Yes.
Again, you're considered rich.
Yes.
You are not.
Yes.
You see, what I'm trying to say is, when we talk of SMEs, and the idea that we have, because there's a notion of what is assumed an SME is, and there's what it is. If we look at those international standards, an SME by those international standards is a big company.
Yeah, true. However, every country has been able to set its own standards. Like also Kenya, we even have right now we have a ministry called Cooperative and Small Enterprises.
Right.
Yes. So with that, also there will going to be a lot of developments as far as SMEs are concerned.
All right. Let me ask you the question.
Yes.
If we look at our homegrown standards, walk us through again. What's an SME?
Yeah.
Specifically, number of people, turnover, blah, 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 all these indicators.
Yes.
For Kenya.
Yes. Now, for Kenya, looking at an SME is basically a company that maybe employs people less than 20, as far as Kenya is concerned.
Must it be a company?
Well, it's a small, medium enterprise. So it's an enterprise.
Must it be a company?
It's an enterprise. It can be a social enterprise.
Carry on.
Yes. So this can actually be even a church if that's what you wanted to hear. It can be a school. It can be a non-profit making organization. However, in this particular country, as far as whoever call themselves SMEs, you realize most of these are within the business making entities, profit making making entities. But now what also happens again is that there are those non-profits or other institutions that are not within profit-making entity that also want to associate themselves with SMEs so that they are also able to have a competitive advantage, and also there's something that they are able to gain as far as associating themselves with SMEs. Because these SMEs, if it's a school, for example, say it's a driving school, which is a business, we want to get one or two contract from these SMEs as far as training is concerned. If it's a non-profit, there are also non-profits or NGOs that work closely with SMEs in terms of educating these SMEs, funding these SMEs, so that as far as that is concerned. And then you also look at what's their turnover. SMEs or we talk about from like at least 100,000 going onwards to about 5 million. That's described to be a medium, rather a small business. Then there's a micro.
The value of the business, the turnover of the business.
Yes, both work hand in hand.
Yes.
Yeah, you cannot be a small business and you have 100 employees. Like if, let's say, your turnover is just 5 million Kenya shillings per year. So how much will you be paying? Let's assume you have 5 employees. You give them what's the minimum wage bill? Let's say 15,000 or 16,000 thereabout. If you are to multiply that figure, because you have to pay salaries, you have to pay rents. There are other things that you also have to deal with in terms of electricity, your security, your garbage collection, and such kind of stuff. So looking at that, so it's also that's why also the number of employees come in. So also the business cannot be very big and it has less employees, rather in terms of their turnover. So the employees also contribute in terms of the input dictates the output. Yeah, like assume the Standard Group, the way it is, it could have not been possible for you to man all the radio stations at Standard Group, or all the stations here, KTN News, KTN Home, the Farmers TV, Radio Maisha, and even the Vibes Radio. So at least your growth determines how many people you are able to employ, how many jobs you are able to create. And now, if your income reduces as a business, the wisest thing to do is to let off go some of the staff, and you restructure. And you have seen many businesses doing that. And if we also feel you are too expensive for us, we let you go, and we have someone that we can afford, that's within our earnings as a company. Yes, and that's what you call working smart.
Okay, so how would you, if you were to give a bill of health to the SME sector in this country, how would you say SMEs are doing generally, with the descriptions that you've given now, small, medium size, etc., etc.? If you say, because we saw that up until a certain time, people went and did a job in a large organization, always for government. We then saw the mushrooming of smaller companies later, when people realized that they could do things for themselves. 5-man army running an organization, 10, 15, 20. What would you say was the state of health of SMEs in Kenya today? Doing well, going at a loss, not making profits, working smart, as you say?
Yes. Yeah, well, where I sit, on the scale of 1 to 10, I'll basically give ourselves 6. 10 being the best? Yes, I not being a pessimist.
Okay.
Yeah, but also, I have said depending on where you sit, because there are also other sectors of the economy really struggling, having had COVID-19, having had the prolonged electioneering period. We are still campaigning, I don't know for which other election, having the mandamanos and many other things that we have had, and also having, let me not call him Zakayo Mtoza Ushuru, but having increased tax, and we are paying as we eat, paying as we earn, paying as you sleep. You understand, all those kind of deduction on our salaries. So they are also bringing stress on the SMEs. initially assume you are paying your staff 30,000 a month, so she or he will have to contribute a particular portion to the housing scheme, which was not there. And even you now as an SME, you'll have to be deducted 3%. Assume out of your 20 employees, 3% of every, you are just adding maybe 3,000 for every employee. You understand? You'll be able to reduce the number of employees you have so that you are able to sustain that demand that is needed. So I think we can do better if there'll be better micro and macro policies that will be able to help these SMEs thrive in this particular country. So what we have had, the problem in this country is that most of the people we have entrusted in our leadership to come up with the policies that are favorable to us as a nation, what they always think, they don't think with their intellect, they are thinking with their belly, what is in for me. So most of us, even this thing that we are pushing in terms of the housing levy, ask yourself, who will be the beneficiary at the end of it? That's why some of us will have to fight for it so that we're able to implement that, so that that tender will go to my company or the company of my slave queens and such kind of stuff. So that is where we are as a country, and we are in a sorry state. We have to fix this nation, and that starts from us here, even the fourth estate, wherever we are. It starts from us ensuring that we create a platform that we are sanitizing this nation.
Okay.
SMEs, you say?
Yes. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, let's take a break.
You want to take a break?
Yes, I think it's necessary for you to take a sip of something.
Okay.
Because Jared is saying that things are terrible. He's not even sugarcoating. He's not saying, it's improving.
Oh man, he's even brought slave queens into the conversation.
We are here. We call things how they are. You call a spade not a big spoon.
Not a big spoon. Edna just has to allow me because then I'll just tell you we need to take a cup of tea, a sip of something.
Yes.
Assist Tea says, you know what? This is stuff that it's manufactured, it's grown, it's manufactured, it's packed, it's packaged here in Kenya. It's good enough, even better than what you get on the global market, and it's also sold here in Kenya. They don't offer you the dust, they offer you the premium stuff that you can buy on the shelves. Masala tea, ginger tea, lemon tea, tangawizi, purple tea, hibiscus. What's your take? It's grown on the rolling tea estates of Kiptagich, and that's in Kurosoi South District, and they're saying have a cup of Assist Tea today and enjoy what you would enjoy on the global scale right here in Kenya. It's 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. Let's take a break and the conversation continues right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aye, City. Do like that. My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
I mean, I don't know. What are they saying? How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of the
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Close your eyes. Imagine your unsecured personal loan application has been approved. Imagine all the things you can do and buy. Imagine all the life goals you can achieve. Now stop imagining. Talk to your employer to switch to I&M at Work and get access to Kenya's largest unsecured personal loan of up to 10 million shillings. Call 0719 088 000 today. I&M. Tunakujali.
Aki, I feel like yum.
Have exactly what you're craving when you crave it at Shell Select. Crave it. Have it.
Okay, so still looking at cloudy conditions. The sun is doing that dance this morning in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's 17 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 23 in a mostly sunny Nyeri at 16. At 17, it's sunny in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 13, and at 26, partly sunny in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 25. It'll go to highs of 30 in a sunny Malindi at 26. At 21, Kisumu is sunny, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 28 in a sunny Kakamega at 19. It's 21 and sunny in Kampala. It'll go to highs of 27. And Dar es Salaam is currently at 27. We'll see highs of 31. 8 degrees and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 17. And at 25, it's mostly cloudy in Lagos. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 23 in Kinshasa. Looking at 29 and sunny in Beijing, highs of 30, and it'll go to highs of 20 in Paris and highs of 19 in London. 15 and clear in New York still. Monday night coming into Tuesday, we'll see highs of 20 and lows of 15.
Chilled Spice.
Coming out of traffic hour, that's where we are right now. A little bit of traffic still on the Thika Superhighway and still heavy on parts of North Airport Road heading towards the Eastern Bypass. All right, what else are we looking at? On the Thika Superhighway, that seems to have dwindled more or less, and a little bit here and there on Limuru Road. Coming out of Western shouldn't be too bad. The CBD is where you see most of it right now. Folks are in and out handling their business. So talk to us through the morning. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
Business News, brought to you by I&M Bank. Get Kenya's largest unsecured personal loan of up to 10 million Kenya shillings from I&M Bank Kenya.
I'm Dennis Aseto. A civil society organization comprising 25 players has faulted the proposed housing fund that will see employed Kenyans taxed at 3%. Instead, the group wants the state to control expenditures. It adds that the tax hike is punitive, coming at a time when the country's economy is slowly recovering from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Low-cost airline Jambojet will be participating in this year's SkyTeam Sustainable Flight. The Sustainable Flight Challenge will involve a short-haul return flight between Nairobi and Mombasa on May 26, 2023. TSFC aims to help global airlines accelerate their sustainability journey. Mobility company Bolt has opened a driver management center in Nairobi that will address motorist concerns. The facility will be accessed on an appointment basis to ensure seamless and effective management of driver issues. It will offer driver support, effective communication channels, training opportunities, community building, issue resolution, driver appreciation, and positive branding. Nigeria commissioned Dangote refinery amid hopes of transforming the country into a net exporter of petroleum products, but analysts say securing crude supplies could affect it achieving full production this year. The government of outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari sees the refinery as the answer to Nigeria's repeated fuel shortages, the latest of which hit the country in the run-up to the February's disputed presidential election. Luton Hospital is looking for a security officer with a KCSC certificate with at least 2 years of experience in security. Suitable candidates are required to send their CVs and cover letter by 25th of May 2023. Visit jobs.digger.co.ke for more information on these and other jobs. Digger Jobs, your credible and trusted jobs partner.
Business News is sponsored by I&M Bank. Are you an employer in Kenya? Switch to I&M at work today and sign up your employees to Kenya's largest unsecured personal loan today. Call 0719 088 000 today. I&M, tunakujali.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
22 minutes to 10 o'clock and into the last 22 minutes of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning on this Tuesday, the 23rd of May 2023. And we're having a conversation about then, all right, young people who are stuck in this tornado, whirlwind, something of hard economic times and saying,
actually.
Thank you very much. That is it. Jared has told us outlook bad, situation terrible.
Jared hasn't told us bad. Horrible.
Okay, horrible. Sorry, let's use a different adjective.
Yes.
And if we're looking at
he
the
was
situation,
trying to spice it up.
Yes, but you're saying no.
We call a spade a spade.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you said situation is horrible.
Yes.
Outlook is dim. If we don't fix it today, it's even going, because you gave us a score of 6 out of 10.
Yes.
If we don't start to fix things today, even this place where we're telling young people to go and invest in and start to whatever is not going to exist.
Yeah, true.
Why? But everybody's telling us that things are looking okay and that you can start to, build businesses, because that's essentially what we're saying,
just
right?
Build businesses, but from the bottom up.
Yeah. That's what we're telling young people today, right?
Yeah.
If you happen to have done some kind of tertiary course, even if it's not university, you can actually start your own business. But you are saying other things need to be done in order for this business that you want to build to actually survive.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, we need to have real support, not just support in terms of tutatenga bilioni 50, tutapeana hustler fund, we'll do that. No, you need to have practical things, not just
like
that.
What, for instance, Jared?
We need to say we are going to give young people loans, we are going to give them grants, and make that process of getting those loans or grants easy, not really complicated.
We have a hustler fund.
How much have you ever gotten from the hustler fund, or how many people do you know have ever gotten from hustler fund? Apart from getting the 100 shillings,
we here participated in that process. 500.
You are deep state. Yeah, maybe that's why you're able to get that. There are people who are not even able to get that 500 shillings. But now, what will 500 shillings do for you in this particular economy? My sister here knows 3 years ago, during Uhuru's time or during Kibaki's time, when she had 1,000 shillings in a village supermarket or a village shop, when she could have carried a whole bucket of shopping.
Yes.
But today, even that 500 shillings cannot buy for you a tissue paper.
You'll buy 3
You
items.
understand? Yeah.
And that's it.
You cannot even, you could buy bread at only 40 bob few years ago. A few months ago, we could buy a bread at 50 shillings. What's the cost of bread today? Even the slices have reduced.
Actually, what is the cost of bread currently now?
Yeah, the 400 grams is 60 bob. Yes. The family bread is now 120 shillings at a retail supermarket. Yeah, so depending on where you live, sisi watu wa Kibera ama Kukanjenga, that's our price. But where mtu wa Karen, it might be different.
He was pointing at CT. Mtu wa Karen. So these guys go to a bakery.
Yes.
So I mean,
yes.
Look, Jared.
Yes.
Look.
Yes. So what were current, they don't know what it means. Even if an item they have added 50 bob extra, he will not understand. That's why you go down here. There's a supermarket, Naivas. The first one is the Imara Mall, and there's one at Ruby's Kobil. Ruby's, where we used to call Kobil, the old Kobil. The prices are not the same.
What do you mean?
Yeah, hii ni wale walifika. Yeah. Ni ile ni wale wase sisi watu wa Kukanjenga wale tunakam. Yeah, so the prices are not the same, and even the shops, of course, the shops down there, the things are more expensive than the supermarkets, because even the cost of doing business has become harder. We need to ease the cost of doing business, and that's why it's being said in 10 years' time, Tanzania will be the biggest economy in Eastern Africa.
Jared, paint a picture for me. Just take a break. Hold on to that. Not take a break. Hold on to that thought, because they're very important in terms of maybe answering this question. Paint a picture for me then. A young man or young woman today once says, okay, fine, you've said the job market is saturated, right?
Yes.
There's very little, maybe if you don't know somebody, I mean, because this is the reality, right? If you don't know somebody, the chances of you looking at the newspaper and applying for a job and you getting the job are slim to none.
Yes,
right? That's just the reality of the situation that we're in. So this person makes a decision to start a business. What you're telling me today is it is going to be very difficult for many things to happen, because we've heard one of the barriers to doing business for young people today is credit. Capital, not credit, capital.
Yes.
And so because of the lack of capital, folks then have to go the credit way.
Yes.
And even the cost of credit is extremely high. The requirements for you to acquire this credit are even higher.
Yeah.
So where does the Association of SMEs then come in?
So now,
to be able to assist these people who want to now start a business because they cannot find jobs to survive in this 6 out of 10 markets that you're talking about.
So now we as Association of SMEs, some of the things, the reason why we were formed or why we were founded as United SME Association of Kenya, one is to fight for the rights of SMEs. Yeah, that is lobbying in terms of policies. Like one of the things that is really hurting business is the cost of credit. The other thing is the licenses that you are required to have. Yeah, if you have gone to an SME, you will not, you look at their notice board, they look like an advertisement board. You would not even be able to tell the color of that notice board. You'll find a yellow license, a green one from City Council, one from KEBS, one from NEMA, one from I don't know fire, what, many other things. Yeah, even there's an eating license that is coming, you understand? So things are changing. Even if you wanted to cook, by the way, something like, you wanted to have a small kitchen in your office, you have to get a food license for that. So one of the things we are trying to fight as SME Association of Kenya, lobby for, is that we should reduce the number of licenses that are needed to operate, because every license here costs a lot of money, and that money could have been used to be able to buy stock for the business or be able to inject capital in the business. And then the other thing, there's a lot of Max Weber bureaucracy. If you wanted even this license, how to put to the cost of the license?
What is a Max Weber?
Okay, a Max Weber bureaucracy basically is how things are done following a particular procedure to the letter.
So who was Max Weber?
Yeah, Max Weber is one of when we call gurus of management. Yeah, as far as management is concerned, I know when you're in school, BBM 101 or BCom 101, you learn about Max Weber and principles of management.
I studied literature and linguistics, so we didn't. So Max and I didn't meet.
It might have been. It might have been a common course. Yes. He was a professor of management.
And so, what does this theory that is named after him? What does it tell us?
Yeah, it basically the way how things are done. There's a procedure. You have to follow that process. And vitu, what someone will say, kasumba ya kufanya vitu. Yeah, it has to be done like this. Even if you knew this needs to be done, but there's something else that has to be done, you just have to follow it religiously with absolute dogmatism, without questioning anything.
So how do people, because I'm still there, how do people get help? Because here we are, if somebody was to paint a picture,
yes,
what we've painted is grey. We've painted very grey. The sun is not anywhere. So then we are saying, enter into business, become entrepreneurial. How do you do that when you've painted this grey picture?
Yeah, one of the things you need to get a PhD. Yeah, a PhD here is prayer, hard work, and determination. Some of those offices, you will never get help if you don't have grace, if you have not prayed. Yeah, just like when I was registering, for example, I ran another international NGO called Jubilee Stewards of Africa. When I started the process, it took me 8 years to register Jubilee Stewards of Africa as an NGO. I didn't know the process. I didn't have the money, and then how you are also taken around, but the money was also not a lot. So I started as a CBO. I didn't have the information, but I've known one thing I learned here at then KTN. For me, this is what we call Transform Kenya, right? Information is power, and that information is important for your transformation. So if you have the right information, so you need to pray for grace because I understand where I work myself or what I do. I don't do it because of Jared. Yes, I do it because of my Father who is in heaven. And it's not me, it's not by my power, neither by my...
It's not by might.
By my might. It's by His own grace.
Sure.
Because there's a time you don't have that energy, but you have to call that energy. My sister, you will always say that, oh, mi ndio nakujanga hiyo radio ni nguvu yangu, niko show yangu wase wanasikiza. But it's not because of you. It's because God wants to use you for a particular reason. Yeah, you might not be born again. I don't know about your spiritual background, but God has.
So now, okay.
Wait.
I'm not a pastor.
The rate he's going to make an altar call.
I know at some point, and he's going to send around the offering basket.
Yes.
But besides prayer, what you wanted to hear is hard work. That the hard work, you need to have a catalyst.
But what I hear you saying, Jared, if I can just interject here, beyond this, what I hear you saying is that essentially anybody who is trying to survive in this economy is not going to be able to lean on the support of already instituted structures. It's not going to be able to lean on the support of the government.
Yes.
It's not going to be able to lean on the promise of a conducive business and working environment.
Yes.
It's not going to be able to lean on any of those things. And are you saying this based on your experience? That
yes, based on my own experience, you have to take your own personal decision.
In Kenya today, you have to depend on yourself if you want to survive.
Yes, you have to make your own personal decision. This is the way, this is how I'm going to do it, and do thorough research. That's why you need to do what you call a CBA, that's cost benefit analysis, before you undertake a journey. And then sit down and do a SWOT analysis. Ask yourself, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities that are there in the market? And what are the possible threats? And how do I deal with them? And now you sit down and come up with SMART goals. That SMART basically means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So you need to know, like now, after maybe you retire, I know you are about 17 years and a half. By the time you reach 40, you want to retire. You want to retire at 40. You want to retire at 40 years, and now you want to run your own business. You want to come to the world of small and micro enterprises. You want to start your own business. You see, every big business you have seen around, by the way, started as small as an SME. And so you must have a SMART plan. This is what I want to do. And we have just said that things are not easy, but they are not going to be easy if you are also not easy to yourself. You must have what we call PMA, positive mental alignment. Even if things are hard, have the mindset of a lion. I am going to make it. I am going to face lions. I'm going to face giants. I'm going to face elephants, and I am going to come up with meat. You know, the reason a lion succeeds in life, they look at every animal as meat, not as a threat. But by the way, do you know one lion is not possible to kill one elephant or one buffalo? They have to work as a team, and therefore you can also not achieve anything.
The elephant and the buffalo, you can't kill one?
It's hard for one lion to kill one buffalo.
Oh, it's the lion we're still talking about.
Yes. Yes, welcome back to Kenya. He had traveled maybe Singapore. You know, Bunyasi told him about Singapore.
I think this is now the fourth time we've mentioned Singapore this morning.
Yes.
So look, and I'm coming back to the SMEs Umbrella Association.
Yes.
So is this what it is? Is it motivation for young people?
Yes, I looked at it.
Motivation for would-be entrepreneurs, because it doesn't have to be an age factor. It could be that you're older, but you're getting into the entrepreneurial circles. And because if you're saying that today in Kenya's today in Kenya, that there are structures that have been put in place. We have government structures. We have it's not called the platform.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There are options there for people to start your own thing. The business licenses that you can, there is some support. But I'm still hearing you say that the thing that you have to depend on to be able to help you on your entrepreneurial journey in this country is yourself.
Yes, the first, you are the source of your own salvation. Even if you have not made a decision that I want to be a Christian or want to be a Muslim, that will not happen. So even with this particular success in life, you have to make a decision that I am going to succeed. And you have to see things the way they are, but you need to have to be an optimistic person and look at the glass as half filled and not half empty. And with that particular attitude, you are going to go far. But we should also want to make an appeal to those people in leadership and those people in spaces that they can make changes like you have here with my brother here. One of the major causes, or we are not growing as a country, is the lack of capital. And even the capital that is there's someone stifling it. The banks are killing small businesses. This is what they do. Whenever we were talking about a car, maybe a house or something, you have taken a loan in the bank. The bank can frustrate you in one way or the other that you will lose that particular car or that particular house. And they make the cost of getting even that facility so expensive for people like us who are middle income level or lower income level, as opposed to my brother here from Rwanda or Karen and my sister here from a better place.
If you notice, I've moved.
Yeah.
I live in two places. Yes. I still live in Karen. Yeah. But then I have a place in Rwanda.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
No,
of course, the people who live in Rwanda, they afford another house in Karen. The same way, I'm sure you have your house here and another house in Europe. So basically, where Kisumu is Europe. Houses. Yeah, you have another house in Europe. Anyway, whatever basically happens is that we need even the financial institutions, we need to have this conversation. They need to say, look, we are here to help businesses and not to make them suffer. Yes.
Jared, there are those who say that 75% of our population are between the age of 18 and 35.
Yes.
Now you say if you're looking at our businesses, 90% of them fall in the category of SMEs.
Yes.
So which means if you are talking simple numbers,
yes,
the majority of people who are in these SMEs,
yes,
are probably between that same age bracket.
True.
Now, we have politicians talking about all manner of things, like the bottom up. In theory, when you listen to it, it makes sense. The practicality of it and how it can be structured so that the benefit that is spoken of is actually achieved, that's a bit hazy. Okay? Now,
yes,
the organization you work for,
yes,
how do you help these people who clearly need help to be able to realize this thing? Because they're already at the bottom. You don't need to tell them. They're already there. How do you help them come up?
It's one of the things that we do is training, because I've just said information is power. Most of us want to say, I want to be self-employed, but they don't know what basically needed for them to be self-employed. You have heard, or statistics have shown that most small businesses, they die within 2 years of starting. So the reason they do so is because these people start without an effective strategy. Some of them start without zero plans, and if you are not planning to succeed, you are basically planning to fail, and that's most businesses do. Some of them, niko na pesa kidogo nimepata kwa pension. This lady or this gentleman is 65 years of age, he has just retired, or 60. So yo pesa kidogo ameona, I can invest into matatu business. Nimeona matatu inashika, and someone has told me that this is working. So they don't have a plan, they have not done their research, and that's why I talked about you need to do a CB, a cost benefit analysis, and understand the market. This is what is needed. But if you don't do that, it will be hard. Now, for us as United SME Association, those are some of the things that we are helping small and medium enterprises to do. Yes, we are training them. We have workshops, we have weekly webinars, we have monthly clinics, what we call the SME clinics, where we agree that we are meeting on this particular venue in this particular county, and we are going to talk to this particular industry on how to RTM, route to market, because most of us also have very brilliant ideas, but if those ideas are not properly packaged, you are not able to succeed. The reason you go to the supermarket and buy the Asis brand and leave the other brand is because how it looks like, it's a appealing. Yeah, and even if this was to be highly priced than the other one, and the other one was better, but the kind of how it has been packaged doesn't look good. Yes.
How long has the organization been in existence?
We are now 1 year old. Yes.
The question I was going to ask you.
Yes.
I cannot ask you.
Yes.
I will ask you next year.
Yes. Next year we will be here forever. Yes. We actually saw the gaps in the other organization. Yes. Which organization? Jubilee and Stewards have been there for 10 years. United SME Association
what
has
I'm
been there for 1 year.
is something that for you to think about.
Yes.
How will you measure success?
Yes.
How will you know? Now that is a question that need not be answered now, but think about it.
Many thanks. I'll put it down. My assistant is somewhere there listening, Dahira Rian, and I'm sure she has put that question together.
Yes.
So we'll be able to sit together next year.
How will it
at
look
time
like
this?
Immediately, mid-term, and long-term?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we also have our plan. This is what we want to do. By the end, we will be meeting mid of next quarter in Mombasa, and sit down with the other business leaders and be able to put up our strategic plan for the next 5 years.
Okay.
And some of the things we are doing, like on the 30th June, we are meeting young entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs across 10 countries in Africa at Western Hotel, and we'll be appreciating them what they have been doing in what we are calling the Paysetters Award, which basically recognizes small and medium enterprises, not just recognizing them and giving them award, trophies and certificate, but we also training them. And this has been happening for the last 5 years, and that is what actually created the idea behind the United SME Association of Kenya. And last year we had this award, the East African chapter in Kampala Serena Hotel, Uganda. So we are going to do it here in Kenya on the 30th of June at Western Hotel, and it's going to bring together 10 countries of Africa. And most of these the people who run medium-sized enterprises and SMEs, actually young people. However, pia wale watu wamekula chumvi kidogo kama my brother here are there. But I'm not saying he's old. Yes, and actually
some fundamental thoughts here that we've had to share, and our time is actually winding down. It's important to talk about some of these things.
Yes.
Because we talk about the largest part of the population.
Yes.
And are probably supported the least. So very important conversations to have. We're glad that you got to start that conversation with us this morning, and look forward to an opportunity where that can be done again. For now, we're going to say goodbye on Kenya's biggest conversation. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. and the conversation continues. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Spice up your life.
I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto is chairing a parliamentary group meeting at State House, Nairobi.